That's nightmare fuel. Goddamn.
Leon sees a parasite partially
Wow.
exposed on his back, which pops out just like with El Gigante, and he damages the parasite,
Wow.
killing the Gyarados, reuniting with
This
something
cult-like
into the mouth of another
behavior.
man.
Oh,
As this man struggles on the ground
Jesus.
and convulses, the two
All right, so Resident Evil Requiem is 3 days away. And we are going through the massive lore dump bomb that we have to get through of basically the last decade. So we got, today we're going to be covering 4, 5, and 6. Let's go.
Welcome to part 2 of the Resident Evil story series.
Again,
now, the last one was a
Gaming
wild ride,
Harry,
as we covered
we say
Umbrella's
thank
origins
you.
all the way through
Shout
to
him
Resident
out
Evil Code
and
Veronica. We
go
covered a lot
watch
in the
his
last
main video.
If you didn't
I'll
catch
link it
that
in the
one, then
bio.
link to it is up there.
And
Anyway,
he's
in
a
this video, we'll
beast.
be covering the years 2002 all the way through to 2013. And that's 8 games, their respective DLCs, and a couple of the CGI movies too. So yeah, got a lot to cover here. I won't waffle on too much as I want to get straight into it, but don't worry, I'll be providing context for certain situations where relevant. As mentioned in the last video as well, the lore for this franchise is so vast that there will be things that
Now,
I'll skip
we're
over
gonna
and not
start
talk about.
at-
These will only really be minor points that won't affect the narrative. These include things such as comics, manga, and maybe certain parts of the Umbrella Chronicles. But let's jump back in again. We need to start by focusing on the fallout when it came to Umbrella and a very important public trial.
The Raccoon Trials. Okay, this is where I'm
After
supposed to
Raccoon
start.
City's destruction and its subsequent sterilization
Let's
by the
see.
US government, wiping out 100,000,
Okay.
heads needed to roll. I mean, the sterilization served a secondary purpose too, and that was to
Cover
remove
the
any
evidence,
of the
of
US
course.
government's own ties to Umbrella. US Congress would start by passing a decree that the government would suspend any activity or trade with Umbrella. So Umbrella sued the US government.
Oh,
The president eventually resigned as public scrutiny was rising in regard to his handling
dang.
of this
The
horrific
corporation
event, and many
was
actually
able
put
to
those
sue the
100,000
government
deaths
and
on the
actually
government and the thermobaric bombing of the city rather than the actions and carelessness of Umbrella themselves.
Pin it
Many
back
people
on
thought
them.
this stunk of a cover-up. A journalist called Grace Ashcroft,
Genius.
who herself was caught up in the
Oh, that's
chaos
her.
of the Raccoon City outbreak, wrote an expose on Umbrella, and her article was
This
titled
is Ashcroft's
"What is
mom.
a BOW? Blowing the lid off of this horrifying secret project."
The
And this article
BOW.
really piqued the public's interest
Goddamn
in the trial.
Titan.
But Umbrella, well, they weren't going to go down without a fight. Oswald E. Spencer hired the best lawyers money could buy, who themselves turned the focus onto the US government, and the bombing of the city is proof that the government were trying to direct public outrage and manufacture a conspiracy. Evidence wasn't easy to come by since Umbrella had done a pretty decent job of erasing any sign of
I don't think it was too hard to prove there's conspiracy, though. Maybe finding like straight evidence, but it's probably pretty easy to see that the government had something to do with Umbrella.
their own wrongdoing. But the trial
It's so realistic in the lore sense of, I was mentioning a multiverse of Epstein in the last one. This is what the government does. They work in shadow deals. They do this. That's why all of this kind of hits for me.
would commence nonetheless, and what would come next was one big blame game with fingers being pointed at as many people as possible. The trial itself would be hampered too by politicians and senior people in the government who were involved in the dealings with Umbrella, refusing to testify in the trial, as was their right, and Oswald E. Spencer would prepare false witnesses to testify in court as a way to guide the public towards blaming the government. Umbrella were also a senior member of the Federation of Pharmaceutical Companies, although to be fair, the FPC did not know that it was helping Umbrella produce bioweapons. Umbrella is just, or was, part of the Federation as a producer and supplier
dude.
of pharmaceutical
This worked out
products.
so good for them,
FPC
actually.
made a deal with prosecutors in the trial in that they would be allowed to carry on in their business if they supplied evidence to the courts. Another company that gave evidence and testified against Umbrella in court was Tricell, who themselves had a pharmaceutical arm within their own company, and they were also members of the FPC.
Cool.
But the damage of this very public court case and the length it was dragging on for was showing, and Umbrella were on the verge of financial collapse. But there was something else that had damaged Umbrella's chances in this case, and that was what was to come next.
We'll cover it later.
In
get
2004,
to the main game.
Leon Kennedy is in rural Spain. Continuing to be haunted by the trauma and horror of what he went through in Raccoon City 6 years ago, Leon is still working as a US Stratcom agent. He's holding a photo of a young blonde woman, and one of the 2 Spanish police officers asks Leon what he's doing there. He replies that he's looking for someone. The police officer tells him that a lot of people go missing around there, and it's been that way for a very long time. Some hikers had recently gone missing in particular. The police pull over to the side of the road as one of them needs to take a leak. The guy hears something in the forest and heads off to check it out.
Bro, you
It doesn't
hold
return.
up. You literally know people go missing, and then you're gonna wander off by yourself. Genius. Horror game logic.
So Leon goes to see if the guy's okay. Leon comes across a dead and decaying animal that looks like it's been sacrificed on a makeshift altar. He also comes across a hunter's
what the
lodge.
fuck?
Entering, he searches the place, finding a set of sticks tied together into a charm to form some kind of symbol. He soon encounters the man who resides at this lodge, and despite Leon attempting to engage him in conversation using basic Spanish, the man isn't interested in conversation and he's just mumbling to himself. Leon spots the bloodied badge of the officer that went off to investigate.
Oh, already?
Behind him, the man has now got an axe and attempts to kill Leon, who puts his training to good use by putting the old guy on his ass. His neck appears to have been broken, and Leon...
That's right, because Leon has been training. The government kind of moved him up and put him through all that special forces, anti-bioweapon training. So not only was he already goated with talent, because he is fucking Leon, but his experience from Resident Evil 2, and now he actually has training specifically for
There's a
it.
scream coming from somewhere. The man dropped a key, so Leon uses that to descend into the basement. He finds a load of dead animals down there rotting.
Damn,
Here's the
there's
policeman.
some freaking serial killer shit down here. Hannibal
Radio, and
Lecter ass.
investigating, he finds him there dead. And the other police officer sat back in the jeep is calling for help, but lets out a scream. Leon is horrified to see the man whose neck was broken coming down the stairs, so he shoots him in order to put him down for good.
Wow.
More crazed
No,
villagers
no.
start coming into the lodge, so Leon deals with them too. Finding another way out of the lodge, he sees the map of the village, Valdalobos, and a photo of the girl he's looking for tied up and being held. He makes contact with his handler, Ingrid Hunnigan,
Okay.
and relays the situation back to her. Leon refers to Baby Eagle. This is the code name of a person he's trying to locate, who it so happens is the president's daughter, Ashley Graham.
Oh,
Leon tells
damn.
Hunnigan it's likely she's somewhere in this village, and he sees a location
They sent
by
this
the
dude
lake and
alone
thinks
to
that she may
get
have
the
been taken
president's
there.
daughter.
Their call is cut short when more crazed locals burst into the room and Leon escapes through a window. Heading down the short path with the aim of
The
getting
cops
to the
already
lake
smoked.
and fighting more crazy people, he comes across the village and scoping it out.
How's these
he
dudes
sees the
take
villagers burning
headshots
the
so
other police
good?
officer alive. Trying to sneak his way through the village, Leon is eventually rumbled and has to defend himself against the angry villagers, including one
Chainsaw
hooded
man.
villager who is screaming and wielding a chainsaw. Locking himself inside a house, they
Shotguns.
eventually breach it, but Leon survives the encounter as a church bell begins to toll, mesmerizing the villagers, and they simply leave, shutting the door, which features an insignia on it behind them. Hunnigan
They all
makes
got
contact
this
and tells
frickin'
Leon to look for a large windmill. There's a
devil
path to the lake on the
symbols.
far side of it. After searching the houses for more supplies, Leon heads off and spots the windmill. He's at a farm and, yep, more crazed villagers to deal with here. Heading down the path past the windmill, he's attacked by villagers again.
Oh.
Entering a house and disarming traps, Leon
Took the
hears a
Reaper
banging sound
right to
coming
his
from one of the
frickin'
rooms
trap.
and finds a villager banging
Wow.
a hatch in the floor. Killing him, he opens the hatch for himself.
Oh, he got a nice
and finds
kick.
a wriggling sack under the house, and on opening it, there's a man inside. The look on his face turns to surprise as a very large bearded man approaches them. He easily disarms
Oh.
Leon and launches him, knocking him out.
This is
Then
like
injects him with some
phase
kind
2
of
Titan.
egg. Drifting in and out of consciousness, a strange man looks at Leon, telling him that he's their sacrificial lamb.
What the
that he'll
fuck
receive
is
their most
this?
sacred body.
That guy looks beyond evil. Jesus.
The man looks at Leon, telling him that he's their sacrifice.
That's nightmare fuel. God damn. And who was the dude in the sack? Why does he kind of give me the feelings of the dude that Rebecca found in Resident Evil 0, who she said you're dead and just to run away?
Official lamb, that he'll receive their most sacred body, that it begins now. He then comes to, and he's been
Most
tied up
sacred
next to
body.
the man he'd found under the house. The man was tied up as he was captured whilst on the way to the church to meet someone.
Oh,
He
he's a
introduces
Spanish
himself
dude,
as
isn't he?
Luis Serra. He
It's not
rightly
him.
guesses that Leon is looking for someone, and he mentions a certain senorita. Leon demands to know what he knows, and he says that he's heard they are moving Ashley, and he saw them dragging someone to the church. Leon saves Luis from being killed by another villager, and using the chain, Leon breaks the guy's neck,
Oh,
and Luis
nice.
retrieves the key, unlocking his cuffs, throwing the key for Leon, and he leaves. Asking Hunnigan to do a background check on Luis, Leon retrieves his gear and heads outside, where he
This
meets a
dude's
strange man
dirty
who
in
is a
some way.
merchant. He can upgrade weapons for Leon, and he's interested in buying treasures that Leon may find in and around the village. Selling any that he's picked up, Leon moves onwards in order to try and
Blackout.
find the church. He comes across a large stronghold, and of course, it's full of those crazy villagers. He then comes across a large and very old manor house, and searching it, it seems that this is the
Ooh.
house of the big bearded
This
guy
dude
who
is
got
still
Leon.
going.
From documents in here, it appears that he was once a relatively normal and nice person, and was the village chief named Torres Mendez.
It's
The
Mr.
village
X
itself was a very
upgraded.
traditional village, and a lot of the villagers were themselves devout Catholics. Mendez was heavily involved in the village, and he kept records of what happened there. This tight-knit community would celebrate little successes in making their lives a little bit easier. You see, this was a village that shunned modern technology for a more traditional lifestyle. A couple of successes under Chief Mendez saw them finding a way to catch more fish, as well as opening up ironworks which allowed for the creation and manufacture of the agricultural tools needed for farming. They built a fish farm, and all was going well in the village under the leadership of Mendez, who was teaching the children of the village literacy and mathematics, and then by the evening, he was dining with families in order to hear their grievances. The secluded and very private village was open up to the outside, and the village was by all accounts prospering.
He's the freaking president
of the village. Quite unbelievable considering what Leon has encountered in this village so far, but what happened to these people? Well, that'll all become clearer very soon. Leon heads upstairs and finds a portrait of the guy.
What happened is this dude.
Seems that the villagers could even be worshipping this guy. Finding a key with an insignia on it, which will unlock that door back in the village, Leon goes to leave, but is confronted by Chief Mendez. Leon fires his weapon at him, but this does nothing, and the big guy picks him up by
and
the
a
throat.
Sparta kick?
However, looking at him, he says that Leon's
gives him a
blood is
Muay Thai
accepted to be a
teep.
gift after looking into his eyes. Mendez is then shot by someone wearing red outside the window, and this person then quickly disappears. Mendez walks off, and Leon is slightly confused about what he said about his blood. Hunnigan makes contact and gives Leon some information about Luis.
It better
Serra,
not be Ada.
and that
Is
he
it
used to be
Ada?
one of Umbrella's researchers. Sending in the details, Leon reads that after his graduation, Luis was employed by Umbrella's research division.
Oh,
He was one
great.
of their rising stars. He developed several over-the-counter drugs, but all of them were discontinued before they were made available to the public. He resigned a few years after this. Authorities tried to track down anyone with links to Umbrella, but they were unable to locate Luis. Hunnigan's note at the bottom of the file states that Luis being assigned to simple and common drugs by Umbrella doesn't make sense, as he was said to be one of their top researchers.
Sure.
Anyway, Leon needs to track down Ashley, so he leaves the manor.
They're making some drugs to give to the public.
Bear trap, and he can choose to help it or not. Heading back over to the village, Leon sees a tower there collapse. And using the insignia key on the door, Leon is now in the town hall, which again features the portrait of the man he saw. There are passages from a book, almost like some sort of Bible, and it's open at a chapter called Iluminados, which is Spanish for enlightened. It speaks of flourishing and outgrowing their pen. What the hell does that mean? He also discovers a huge skull on an altar, piles of skulls in the corner of the room, and some weird symbols drawn on the walls which seem to resemble a flower.
Freak me out.
This couldn't be the flower from Africa, could it? A little further up the path, Leon comes to the old church.
That flower is all over
Taking out
these
any
games.
villagers in and around the graveyard, Leon needs to find a way inside. In a side room, he finds a picture of Ashley and it has writing on it to keep her locked in the church until the appointed
Bro, she's
time.
not doing good.
He finds another
Y'all
map
treating
too,
the
which states that
president's
the key to
daughter
the
like
church
that?
is to be kept in a cave on the other side of the lake. It also makes mention of their lord and also a monster. So Leon makes his way across the precarious platforms, dealing with more angry villagers.
Wow.
Coming to a large open clearing, Leon hears a growling coming from behind a barred gate. With nothing to do but move on though, he finally arrives at the lake.
It's not
Looking
better not
across
be the
lake,
wolf.
He spots two villagers getting rid of the body of the police officer. They then
Damn.
make a hasty exit, and it's soon clear why. The villagers are feeding the aforementioned monster in the lake, which happily gulps up the officer's body. Having found some fuel, Leon jumps into a boat, and the bleeding thing craps out on him.
Frickin' Leviathan, and
as you can imagine, sitting in a broken-down boat in the middle of a lake inhabited by a large creature is not ideal, as Leon soon discovers.
Oh no.
Using a harpoon, he's able to kill the thing, but something happens
He
to him.
kills
He
it?
starts to cough up blood and he passes out. He has a nightmare about the man he'd saw.
That dude's cane
village,
is
and the
freaking
man is saying
wiggling.
that he will join him in his holy blessing.
It's not what I want.
Forever. Leon is jolted awake and is relieved to see that he's okay. Starting up the boat again, he emerges on a dock, and Hunnigan calls saying that he's been out for 3 hours. He emerges out into an area with a few houses, and on a path he sees a shadow which is disturbing. Something erupts from one of the villagers' heads. It has tendrils, but whatever it is can be killed or destroyed by using a flash grenade or inflicting enough damage. Finding more bloodied altars, Leon finds another strange symbol. The key is there, but he needs 2 items in order to release it.
What's up with all
Using
these
another boat,
hands?
Leon explores and finds these 2 items. He also discovers what remains of the female hikers that had been reported missing, as they'd been sacrificed too. Using the items, Leon
You're
has finally
supposed
got
to be
the
a
key to the
sacrifice
church.
also.
Heading back over to the church, and once in the large open area, Leon spots some sort of cultist chanting about something called Las Plagas, Spanish for the plagues. This seems
Las
to awaken whatever
Plagas.
was growling behind that gate earlier on, and it smashes through. This is a huge troll called El Gigante. After
Oh.
inflicting enough damage to the giant,
Oh.
a parasite emerges and
We got
Leon
a
inflicts some
goddamn
damage
cave
to that
troll
as
here.
well. If he freed the wolf earlier on, it shows up to lend a hand to Leon by
Hell
distracting
yeah.
Eligante. Despite
Don't
the
get
beast's
hurt.
size, Leon is able to bring it down. And a journal inside its pen spoke of the town hall not being able to contain
He looks like the
Eligante.
ogre from
This thing
Sekiro.
had been reared by the villagers, which means that these people are producing their own bioweapons. The journal also states that the beast was consuming so much food that the villagers themselves were running out. It mentions a castle and that someone from there had helped put Eligante to sleep with an incantation. It
He
explains the
eats
cultists that appeared
regular
and woke it
food?
up. Making it back to the church, Leon heads inside using the key. He finds Ashley, and at first he tries to attack him, assuming him to be one of her captors. He says that he's there on the president, her father's orders, but she runs off. She looks out the window and
let
they
her
see
run?
a large group of villagers walking towards the church. They both hear a very loud voice in their heads, and it's that man again, speaking through what could even be a
How's he have
collective
powers?
consciousness to the villagers, telling them to pursue both Leon and
Psychic
Ashley
powers?
and to deliver them to salvation. Leon asks Ashley to trust him and he'll get her home safe. The villagers enter the church, and Leon and Ashley work together in order to escape. Jumping out of a window, they leave the church, and Hunnigan sends Leon coordinates for an evac chopper pickup. Fighting a bunch of villagers, the pair
Wow.
make their way to the coordinates. With the weather getting worse
You
by the
saved
minute,
the
they need to
president's
hurry.
daughter and you are
Crossing over
good
bridge
with
near
the
to farm,
government,
they
dude.
spot Luis, offering them refuge in a house. Inside, and now knowing about Luis's past, working with Umbrella, Leon demands to know why he is there. There are more pressing matters though, such as the villagers who want to kill them. So they team up in order to defend the house and Ashley from them.
Wow.
With a stream of villagers seemingly never
Oh
ending,
my gosh.
Ashley opens the door and tells them to hurry, and they use an alternate entrance to move past the gate, shutting the path off from their pursuers. Ashley starts
Nice.
to cough up blood, worried about what's happening to her, and Luis asks her if this is the first time she's coughed up blood, and she says it is. Luis says it's something called plaga, and the same thing inside the villagers is also inside Ashley and of course Leon. He says at this early stage it's possible to remove the parasite, the plaga, with a surgical procedure. He reveals a scar showing that his plaga was removed via this method. He says that he has a plan, but they're going to have to trust him. He walks
Fuck.
off and tells them he'll contact them later. A little ways up the path, Luis spots a woman there, a woman wearing a red dress. It's Ada.
I
He
knew
asks
it.
Luis where
I
something called
fucking
the
knew it.
amber is, which he says is not on him at the moment. A deal had apparently been made between Luis and Ada, and whoever she's working for, to get Luis out of there as soon as he delivers them the amber. Him not having the amber means no protection. Back with Leon, Hunnigan calls with bad news. The weather is too bad, so the chopper has been unable to make its approach. Leon tells Hunnigan they'll find a way to escape. Heading through another stronghold and fighting a set of twins, each with chainsaws, Ashley is
Okay.
grabbed by Chief Mendez.
No.
Again, trying to injure him has little to no effect, and fleeing, they manage to escape
doesn't
Mendez and all
experience
murderous
pain.
villagers and come to a small
He's
slaughterhouse.
a freaking titan.
Entering the slaughterhouse, Leon is yeeted off a walkway by Mendez. He says that Leon needs to abandon his body, but Leon isn't having it, and he uses oil from a barrel, shooting the barrel, and the explosion does some real damage to Mendez.
Yeah, but
Unfortunately,
I've
this
seen
does
how
not
these.
kill him, but instead forces him to evolve. During the ensuing fight,
Oh,
Mendez gets separated from his
hell
bottom
nah.
half, but this does not stop him and the fight continues. But eventually Leon is able
He's
to
the
kill
fucking
chief.
Scorpion King.
His glass eye falls out, so Leon grabs that. The merchant will probably be into that sort of stuff. Keeping moving, Leon and Ashley head up another path hoping to escape, and they come to a bridge leading to a castle. Crossing over into the castle, the drawbridge
This
closed behind them,
is
so they're
serious.
stuck there.
These games
For now.
are awesome, I see.
Luis makes contact with Leon and tells him that he's got some medicine that will help suppress the growth of the plaga parasite inside Ashley and Leon. He tells them both to meet him in the castle's courtyard. Scoping out the castle, he sees the same cultist as the one that released El Gigante from his slumber. They
That
also
dude needs
scope
to
out
die.
catapults, which means that they'll need to be careful when moving around.
Goddamn
the
chaos cultist.
Moving up and encountering new and different types of plaga, Leon is able to use a large cannon to blow the doors open, and he and Ashley enter the castle's main area. Inside
How
the
did
main
he-
hall,
how
Leon
did
meets the 7th Castellan of this fine castle.
little Spaniard
and he
get in
introduces
there?
himself as Ramon Salazar. He doesn't ask for much, only that Leon hand Ashley over so that someone he calls Lord Sadler can spread the Las Plagas parasite all over
That's
the
a
world.
Ramon.
Leon and Ashley basically tell him to go to hell, so he leaves with his massive bodyguards, and Leon is forced to fight an army of his zealots. Once they're dealt with, Leon and Ashley find a path leading
They got
down.
shields and
This
maces.
place is basically a torture chamber. A caretaker's note doesn't fill them with delight either, as it speaks about the caretaker hearing the sounds of nails clawing at the walls, and he speaks of a man harboring enough hate to ruin the world. Hearing groaning and roaring coming from somewhere down there, Leon falls through the floor and comes face to face with someone who is blind, has a mask on, who has been heavily
this game is
restrained.
moving at a
This
pace.
is the Garrador. Leon whispers that he can't
The
see him, and this
Garrador?
causes him to thrash violently. A bunch of chains by the exit makes noise inevitable, and the Garrador tears free of his bindings, going to where the source of the noise was.
So you gotta be
now has to
quiet.
fight this blind but very aggressive man.
You gotta shoot
Looking
it
at
in
more
the back.
information from the caretaker's note,
Oh,
this
it's
guy used to be the
Wolverine.
Salazar family's torturer.
Zombie
It was a generational
Wolverine.
thing, as his father and grandfather served in the same capacity. It seems this man really enjoyed his work. The caretaker was assigned to feed him and dispose of the mess, but it was the sounds he would make that forced the caretaker to quit. Leon sees a parasite partially exposed on his back, which pops out just like with El Gigante, and he damages the parasite, killing the Garrador. Reuniting with Ashley, they make their way through the castle, having to put up with more zealot nonsense, but they are eventually able to get to the courtyard.
What is that liquid spraying in the middle?
I think so. Instead of worrying about her, worry about your own skin. Foolish little lamb. Temperance, child.
Goddamn. Whoa. Whoa. He can just take control of her like that?
Wait.
Oh my god. You lost the
Contacting
president's
Hunnigan, Leon
daughter.
updates her that he got separated from Ashley. However, the reception is rubbish, and Hunnigan cannot hear what he's saying. He continues on to find a way to reconnect with Ashley and travels through a location where some dead zealots are knelt in prayer. They seem to be worshipping the Plaga. He hears chanting, and cultists next door are indeed chanting to the Plaga, calling it forth to erupt. During battles, he must seek out and take out the shaman causing it. But since Leon's infected, he can feel the parasite in himself affected by these chants. Entering a library, Leon comes face to face with someone he hasn't seen for a very long time.
What's up, girl?
It's Ada. After a quick melee, Leon asks who she's working for this time, but in classic fashion, she tells him nothing. She tells him to leave Ashley, but she's lost no matter what. If he walks away, then maybe he'll live to meet Ada again. Just like that, she's gone. Truth is, she's been helping Leon throughout his time here, and she was the one who rang the church bell, stopping him from having to fight the villagers, and she also shot Mendez when he was squeezing the life out of Leon. Ada is actually infected too. When meeting Luis and freeing him when imprisoned in the castle, Ada had to fight one of Ramon Salazar's bodyguards, but during the fight, this is when she got infected. This has resulted in her having pretty vivid hallucinations. At some point, Ada had collapsed and was seemingly saved by Wesker, who treated her in Mendez's manor house and told her that she needed to be an asset and not a liability. Luis realized she was infected whilst in the castle with her after he saw her eye, and he handed her a bunch of ingredients to track down in the castle so he could make her some medicine to suppress the parasite. She also found a document in the castle which mentioned that the parasite inside her could be gotten rid of if she kills the creature that infected her.
Twisted as usual.
Kill Ramon's
Wesker's back and serious.
Not long after his encounter with Ada, Leon spots another type of Plaga. This one digs into the body of the host and controls it, using it to launch a frenzied attack. On top of the castle, Leon has to fight another El Gigante.
Oh my
that is now
gosh.
covered in heavy armor.
He's
having a wonderful time throwing
Kong.
boulders at Leon, but upon heading round and flanking the brute, Leon mounts another cannon.
He's a
and brings this one
Titan
down too.
from Attack on Titan.
Oh no. Springing a surprise attack on Leon, El Gigante fails to grab him and falls down into a chasm. Now,
man, he has the face of a Lord
Leon
with
finds
the
Ashley crying and
rings
upset
orc.
in a room, and she tells him that she's worried she might hurt him again. She says she's scared, but she looks at Leon and realizes that he is infected too. He tells her it's okay to be afraid, but she can't run, and she's always got to keep moving forward. And he reassures her that they can beat this together.
True story, girl.
Asking Luis where he is, he apologizes and says that he's screwed up.
This scenario
he
is
asks Leon
bad.
to meet him in the ballroom past the courtyard. Making their way through the zealot and Plaga dog-infested gardens, Leon and Ashley find their way into an extremely lavish part of the castle. Having to track down pieces of a statue, which is a challenge, they do so, but upon them completing it, Leon and Ashley are separated again. Leon tells Ashley to run, and she does so, with some zealots chasing her, but she manages to lose them. Needing to free Leon from his temporary holding cell, Ashley moves through a series of dark hallways, avoiding attacks by zealots and Plaga-infested suits of armor, using a special lamp in order to repel them. Finding a hidden mausoleum, she obtains an item she needs in order to get to Leon, but she is pursued
she's
by
out
many
here
suits
doing
of armor.
missions on
Returning to Leon by
herself
using the
now.
crest, she moves the dead zealot and he drops a key which she throws to Leon. Unfortunately, as he's unlocking the cell, Ashley is grabbed by one of Salazar's bodyguards, a creature called Verdugo, and she is carried away. Meanwhile, Ada is still doing her thing, trying to get a hold of this amber she was talking to Luis about. Her employer, Wesker, calls about the amber, and she refers to Leon as her little helper. Wesker says that Leon can continue to help her, for now. She then sees Ashley being carried off by Verdugo and calls Leon, updating him on Ashley's location. She says that something big is about to go down in the throne room. So with that tip, Leon heads there next. Ada, meanwhile,
Just
meets up
run
with
past
Luis,
him.
who tries to hand her the amber, but the parasite inside her is reacting to it. So Luis needs to hold on to it for now. But he takes the ingredients that she got a hold of and is able to produce a suppressant for her. This suppressant kicks in just in time as Ramon's bodyguard shows up, and this means that this creature, for now at least, cannot track Ada. Nearing the throne room, Leon comes into contact with creatures called Novistadors, and these grim flying freaks are the product of some...
I gotta say, Resident Evil has some of the coolest looking bad guys I have seen. This thing rocks.
Someone placing plaga secretion, which is
let's just look at him real quick.
In time as Ramon's bodyguard shows up, and this means that this creature...
Aura. Freaking aura.
For now at least, cannot track Ada. Nearing the throne room, Leon comes into contact with creatures called Novistadors, and these grim flying freaks are the product of someone placing plaga secretion, which is a black liquid, into the womb of a human virgin. Novistador translates as the unseen, which is apt, as sometimes they will use camouflage to sneak upon their prey.
Now these dude needs blood and wombs of virgins, and that's what comes out of it? Is that what's growing in the president's daughter?
Escaping the Novistadors, it gets even more difficult now, as he has to fight two men that are just like the Garrador.
And then
Nonetheless,
double
he manages to
Wolverine.
defeat them both. And beyond this room is the throne room, and upon entering, Leon sees the Zealots have been getting Ashley ready for some sort of ritual. She warns him as he rushes into the room, and this is because Verdugo drops down on him. Ramon Salazar is there, and a Zealot walks over to Ashley with a goblet of the black liquid that I mentioned before.
No.
Leon is pinned down and can only watch whilst Ashley is forced to drink the foul stuff, which Salazar says will make her suffer. This inevitably causes her great pain. Verdugo then throws Leon down a hole on the floor, but he's able to break his fall by grabbing a chain. Moving on through the tunnels down there, fighting more Novistadors, Leon comes out in some sort of laboratory. This laboratory belonged to and was used by a man called Isidro Talavera. Needing to get an elevator working, Leon goes off to find the power supply, but he's being stalked. Approaching the power for the elevator, Leon is attacked by something and does his best to avoid it.
What the fuck is
Restoring
that?
power, Leon's stalker reveals itself, and it's Verdugo. So a little...
See, what I say about them looking cool.
Restoring power, Leon's stalker reveals itself, and
that's him now, without the robe on. That's amazing.
It's Verdugo. So a little bit about Verdugo. Verdugo was once human and was Ramon Salazar's butler by the name of Isidro Talavera. Isidro was incredibly smart, with a scientific brain, and Lord Sadler would give Isidro a dominant species plaga. Isidro's task now was to improve upon the flaws of the human form, and took inspiration from arthropods. It was Isidro who created the Novistadors,
Arthropods,
who transfused the black
crabs and
into the
shit.
virgin womb. He named the sacred lava as U2 and was delighted that he'd created a new species, as was Lord Sadler. He would later write about how the housekeeper had volunteered herself for experiments and she would become U3, as he believed 3 to be the most beautiful and complete number. He would name her Passanta, and she would serve at the right hand of Ramon Salazar, wearing the black cloak. This is the one that's stalking Ada, and Isidore writes that it's his turn to show loyalty. A little later, he'd let the black liquid into his own body, and thus he became Verdugo. He called it the holy labor of rebirth. He would become a true servant of God and would become the executioner of the
forms of
Anyway, Leon can use the liquid nitrogen showers there
evolution
to freeze Verdugo and do some major
or
damage.
transformation.
To wait for the elevator to arrive, Leon keeps Verdugo entertained whilst he waits for it. Escaping on the elevator or simply killing Verdugo.
Man, it's so
Leon
often you don't
suffers an
kill
attack,
these things. You
and
just
he hears the voice of Lord Sadler, who is giving someone orders. He tells this person that his suffering can end, just as it has for Ashley, who he claims has joined them in communion and is now of their flesh and blood. He orders the man to deliver the vagrant children to their salvation.
Reverse it.
And Leon sees the reflection of the person in their knife. The elevator stops and Luis is there waiting for Leon with the drugs that he and Ashley need, the plaga suppressant. Meanwhile, Ada has her own thing to deal with as she is being stalked, as Passanta is after her and the two fight. She ends up killing it, but after this fight, the parasite inside her ejects itself from her body because of course Passanta is dead, with Ada crushing it under her foot.
Nice.
But back to Leon.
So you need to kill Verdugo to get it out.
On Leon, he grabs the other one meant for Ashley and he and Luis leave. Moving on through the mines underneath the castle, they then discover there are quite a few villagers down here. Fighting through them, Luis and Leon manage to obtain some dynamite and use it to blast their way through various blockages. finding a way into the blast furnace, Leon is
Oh.
grabbed by El Gigante. Thing is, there's another one. Yep, 2 El Gigantes. Using the environment to their
goddamn
advantage, they managed to
Urukai.
dunk one into the molten lava. Now for the other one. At some point in the fight against the remaining
He's like a
El Gigante,
giant
Luis
Urukai
fires off.
straight up.
He does return and he's brought some more dynamite with him. Jumping onto the back of El Gigante, he places the dynamite on its back and kaboom. The parasite is exposed
Hell yeah.
and Leon and Luis finish him off. El Gigante will
Luis
not
is
be
turning
bothering us
around,
again. Maybe. Probably not.
but everyone's a double crosser in
Luis
this.
explains that these mines were where Las Plagas were discovered. So this place is sacred or holy ground to these people, a cult calling themselves Los Iluminados. The Plagas were being preserved inside ancient deposits of, get this, amber. It's what Ada's employer wants her to obtain. With no other way to get through the mines other than by using the mine car, Leon and Luis jump in and ride it.
Boom.
With the villagers down there trying to stop them,
Dang.
they eventually ride the car through the
Race
excavation
carts
site where
through
they
the
dug up the amber
mines.
deposits with the Plaga inside, which is now an Avistador nest. Battling
This game
numerous
looks like it's pretty
Avistadors,
cool,
They
pretty
reach another
fun.
elevator and ride it upwards, with Leon and Luis speaking about his past involvement with Los Iluminados, as he used to work for them. So Leon suggests that he continue to help in order to make up for it. Getting off the elevator, Luis winces in pain, stops talking, and someone has thrown a knife into his back.
Wow.
He collapses, and the knife thrower is revealed to be none other than Jack Krauser. So that was the man that Lord Sadler was talking to in Leon's vision earlier. He retrieves a sample of amber from Luis's body and says that he's recovering stolen goods. Leon realizes that it was Krauser that kidnapped Ashley on a walk home from university, and the two
I see.
engage in a knife duel. During their fight, Krauser seems to exhibit some superhuman abilities.
Oh,
He
super.
also makes reference to what happened during Operation Javier, that his whole unit was wiped out and the US government abandoned him. And this much is true according
Okay,
to a
we'll cover
reporter
that
who tried to
later.
write about it. Apparently not even the high-ranking members of the government knew about Operation Javier, only the president. The whole thing was buried. The reporter stated that a small unit was sent to South America to eradicate the drug cartels and that only Krauser survived, that the US wiped out the unit, not the cartels as the US had abandoned them. Now, from how Operation Javier actually went down, this report is wildly different. Leon doesn't even get mentioned in it, likely because his presence there was top secret. Officially, of course,
Wow.
Leon was never there. Now, breaking from the story to talk about some continuity, something needs to be said about this, because this adds a new and unnecessary layer of confusion to what really happened in South America, and complicates the narrative in terms of Krauser's link to Leon, for those that care about the lore. I mean, Krauser even has the scar on his arm from where he got injured in Darkside Chronicles, as well as having
Okay.
superhuman abilities. I don't know why they'd made such a big retcon for a title, Darkside Chronicles, that they're probably not ever going to revisit. At first I thought they may release a short DLC for Operation Javier, but no, that never happened. I guess that retcon will just be hanging there forever now. My personal opinion is they could have just stuck with what happened in Darkside Chronicles, but anyway, mild rant over, let's get back to the story. Leon is confused as to why Krauser would choose to work for these people. With Krauser about to win the fight and kill Leon, a barely alive Luis shoots the knife out of Krauser's hand, and he then leaves, disappointed in Leon. With Luis dying, he gives Leon the key to his laboratory, asking him to go there and remove the parasites inside him and Ashley. Helping him light one last cigarette, Luis passes away hoping that he's done enough to repay the world for what he's done. So Luis was born in Valdalobos, but was raised by his grandfather who enjoyed hunting, and Luis would hunt with him. Luis had a very sharp mind. One day though, Luis's grandfather would get attacked by a wolf whilst out hunting, and would go on to
Wasn't
show
that
strange
wolf?
symptoms. Little did he know that he was infected with the Plaga parasite. He got worse over time, going mad with rumours spreading around the village. Chief Mendez, wanting to stop whatever this was from spreading, burned Luis's grandfather's house down with Luis's grandfather in it, and
Ugh.
to die. Luis simply left the village without saying a word. He then enrolled in university, managing to obtain a degree in biology, and who should come and
Let's
acquire
go.
his talents? Umbrella, of course. Now get this, you may have spotted it in part 1, but Luis worked at Umbrella's European lab, named the Sixth
Really?
Laboratory, which is of course the laboratory that created the Nemesis Alpha parasite.
Man, they
Luis
linked the
resigned, and as
lore up
mentioned,
so
when Umbrella
well.
fell, the authorities started looking for anyone with ties to Umbrella.
They linked the lore up so well.
But Luis was long gone and had gone back to Valdalobos. At this point, Luis had started working for Los Iluminados, and he and the other researchers discovered the mutations of the parasite, creatures
Los
such as Elegante and
Illuminatus.
Q3. Sadler actually hired Luis to find the weaknesses in the Plaga and find a way to remove it, and he did, of course, by way of the machine that can remove a Plaga. But Sadler
see.
only wanted him to do
So
this
he's
so
a
he could
double
make
agent.
the Plaga even more powerful and harder to extract. Realizing what he'd done, this is when Luis contacted Ada and her employer after he'd obtained a sample of the amber, he would give it to them in exchange for help escaping. But back to the story. Pushing on, Leon gets a call from Ada.
Twisted.
She tells him that Salazar has taken Ashley to the top of the clock tower. Taking a cable car over to yet another part of the castle, Salazar is there, and he seems pretty annoyed that Leon is not dead yet. Fighting his way to the top of the clock tower, Leon moves around the scaffolding there and sees Salazar and his zealots with Ashley.
Kennedy.
Following them inside, Krauser is there with Salazar, and he's saying that he delivered the girl as promised. And he then tells Krauser that he hopes Lord Sadler doesn't forget the loyalty of his servant. Krauser then walks off with Ashley over his shoulder. Left there with Salazar, Leon is tired of him talking all the time, so he shoots him. However, this doesn't have the effect Leon was hoping for, as Salazar is infected with Las Plagas, and he then mutates into something horrific. With Salazar himself the obvious weak spot, Leon tries to evade the attacks in his mutated form, which include him spewing the black liquid at him, and he ultimately defeats him.
It's all over me.
Going after Ashley, Leon finds a boat and Ada shows up. She has the key to the boat, so she and Leon use it to travel island, and he takes this opportunity to ask her about Raccoon City. He asks her if she's changed or if she's just using him like she did before. She then makes her getaway, leaving Leon with the boat. He finds an entry point onto the island, sees Krauser with Ashley, and he sees this island as a change. Travel over to an island, finds a boat and a black liquid at him, and he ultimately defeats him. Going after Ashley, Leon finds a boat and Ada shows up. She has the key to the boat, so she and Leon use it to travel over to an island, and he takes this opportunity to ask her about Raccoon City. He asks her if she's changed or if she's just using him like she did before. She then makes her getaway, leaving Leon with the boat. He finds an entry point onto the island, sees Krauser with Ashley, and he sees this island as essentially a base for a large militia belonging to Los Illuminados. Ada, meanwhile, is watching over Krauser kneeling before Sadler, and handing him the amber. Wesker shows up. He tells her that their plans have changed slightly, and he hands over a device to override the comms terminal on the island. Back with Leon, either fighting or sneaking his way through a large number of Los Illuminados militia, he makes it inside the base itself. Eventually spots Ashley, who has been tied up and left in a room. He shouts at her to wake up, but she's non-responsive. Needing to find a way to get to her, Leon has found the labs and spots some pretty horrific. Ashley, who has been tied up and left in a room. He shouts at her to wake up, but she's non-responsive.
Why are they holding
Needing to find a way to get to her, Leon has found the labs and spots some pretty horrific abominations. These are BOW's Los Illuminados researchers created called Regeneradors. And as the name suggests, they regenerate, and very quickly. So Leon, in order to defeat them, needs to use the thermal imaging scope to see where the parasites are and destroy them, as these parasites act almost like vital organs. Leon also finds out that disturbing experiments had been carried out here. Having managed to find a key card in the labs, Leon uses it to get to Ashley, and it's not good, as she's pretty close to being completely taken over by the Plaga. They need to get to Luis's lab and get the parasites out now. For now though, Leon gives her the suppressant he got from Luis, and this will buy her a bit more time. Leon's suppressant is starting to wear out though. A bit later, Ashley comes to, and Ada calls again. Leon asks her where the lab with the parasite removal equipment could be, and she says that Los Illuminados' most important facilities are at their sanctuary, which is at the top of the mountain.
Should be knowing a lot of information.
She is actually just above them, as she's been watching them. Leon and Ashley make their way through various industrial areas, fighting more Regeneradors, which are now able to mutate, along with many more of the militia members.
And they're
Leon and Ashley find what Los
hammers.
Illuminados consider so valuable. They're in a storeroom full of amber, which contains the parasites. A note here to anyone handling it implores them to handle the amber with obedience, so as not to disturb the slumber of the holy body. Lord Sadler walks in mumbling about this holy body. His apostles pull back his hood, and his head is covered in some sort of growth. He introduces himself as Osman Sadler, the speaker for their lord. Leon shoots Sadler, but this does nothing, and instead, Sadler does something to him and Ashley by controlling the Plaga inside them, telling them to abandon their bodies and to obey the voice of the Lord.
He keeps saying that
Sadler forces Ashley to pick up Leon's gun, and she resists, instead shooting two of Sadler's apostles. Thankfully, the gun only had these 2 rounds in it. Sadler says that his faithful disciples will deliver them their penance. Ashley is then forced to walk off with Sadler, whilst Leon can only watch. Going after Ashley, Leon finds a tent with a photo of him in his RPD uniform with the words, "I'm waiting," written on it. He also left a photo of him in his whilst Leon can only watch. Going after Ashley, Leon finds a tent with a photo of him in his RPD uniform with the words, "I'm waiting."
That's that military dude.
He also left a voice message for him, telling him that he's prepared a battlefield up ahead, just for them. Moving into the area ahead, sure enough, Krauser is up there as expected. Leon assumes that Krauser is doing this for revenge against the US government, but this only enrages him, saying that he had a revelation in the jungle. The most important thing in this world is pure, unadulterated power. Los Illuminados have given him that. A battle then takes place between Leon and Krauser in the old ruins, and eventually Leon asks if they're done here. but they're not. Oh no. Krauser wants to showcase that power he was talking about, and his arm, the one he injured in South America, mutates, forming some kind of blade. He mutates even further, and he and Leon fight on top of
His
a tower.
goddamn prototype.
Defeating him in battle, he stabs Krauser through the heart, killing him. Continuing to go after Ashley, Leon's looks over the Los Illuminados sanctuary. They have a lot of defenses, and he sees Ashley with them. But he's got a job to do, and he begins his trek to the sanctuary. He is fired upon, but a chopper pilot called Mike, the guy who was initially sent to extract Leon and Ashley, shows up and offers some firepower. With Mike's help, Leon is able to battle his way through the defenses. Unfortunately, Mike's chopper is attacked by Navistadors, which bring the chopper down, and poor Mike is killed. Sadler shows his face, indicating that he commanded Mike's help, the guy who begins his trek to the sanctuary. Defenses, and after Ashley. Defeating him in battle, he stabs Krauser through the heart, killing him. Continuing to go after Ashley, Leon looks over the Los Illuminados sanctuary. They have a lot of defenses, and he sees Ashley with them. But he's got a job to do, and he begins his trek to the sanctuary.
This
upon,
one has been engrossing.
Mike, the guy who was initially sent to extract Leon and Ashley, shows up and offers some firepower. With Mike's help, Leon is able to battle his way through the defenses.
Let's go, Mike.
Unfortunately, Mike's chopper is attacked by Navistadors, which bring the chopper down, and poor Mike is killed. Sadler shows his face, indicating that he commanded these freaks to attack. Leon takes them all out. Ada, meanwhile, reaches the combat facility where she comes into contact with a BOW by the name of Martinico, which is now almost indestructible thanks to experiments on it involving the amber. She makes it to the comms terminal and realizes that Wesker is going to blow up the entire island, and thereby he intends to kill Ashley too. Wesker tells Ada the weak serve the strong, and he's told that he's arranged transport off of the island once she gets the amber. However, Ada cannot let Wesker do this, so she limits the damage these explosives will do to the island. Leaving the facility, she manages to defeat Martinico after she skillfully avoids lasers in a hallway, which slice and dice poor Martinico. Rest in pieces. Now, spurred on to avenge Mike, Leon works his way through the rest of Los Illuminados' militia until he reaches the sanctuary. He finds Ashley laid up on a stone altar. He is stopped in his tracks by Sadler, who tells him he wants to share this gift with as many people as possible. He says they are all connected through the holy body. He says Leon's flesh, his bones, and his thoughts are already one with them. But let's stop a minute and look into who Los Illuminados are, along with how the Plagas ended up in Vardalobos. So where on earth did Osman Sadler come from? Well, Lord Sadler's ancestors went back quite a long way, and they shared the same fervor for Las Plagas, even continuing their worship of it after they were banished from the island by the Salazar Castellan at the time. Their banishment from the mainland resulted their settling on this island. Hester, Keenan, and Adam Sadler were just a few of Osman Sadler's ancestors. They wrote the Los Illuminados Bible, if you like, which talked of praising the holy insects and that they have been promised paradise on earth. They left behind epitaphs, and according to the epitaph from Adam Sadler, on which the Roman numerals translate to the year 1554, it was here that Adam found his faith. This was the start of the cult and the discovery of the Plaga parasite. As said before, the holy insects. Just under 200 years later, in 1741, Hester Sadler explained how the cult had been expelled from the mainland by the militant wicked. This is obviously talking about the Salazars and how the mines had been sealed up by the Salazar family, which, in the cult's eyes, was a massive sin. Fast forward to when Osman Sadler became the leader of Los Illuminados. He wanted more power and influence, and the best way he could achieve that was to gain access to the mines underneath the Salazar family castle. The Castellan at this time, Diego Salazar's son, who we know as Ramon, began to suffer from a terrible illness. Ramon's mother, Catalina, invited Los Illuminados to treat her son, despite Diego forbidding this, since his family had banished them centuries earlier. Los Illuminados introduced a dominant Plaga into Ramon's body, and this did save him. The cult killed Diego, and Catalina went missing, with Ramon then becoming the 7th Castellan of the Salazar family. This is the point at which Sadler would manipulate Ramon. He converted and became a member of the cult, giving Los Illuminados access to that which they most desired. Access to the amber and the parasites contained within it. This was after Sadler guilt-tripped Ramon into feeling bad for what his ancestors stole from the cult. Thus, Ramon unsealed the mines. With them being allowed back into the mines, the cult recruited an excavation team, but upon entering the mines, they found that the dust from the fossils had Plaga spores in it, and these had infected the excavation crews, and they had grown full-size Plagas inside their bodies.
Of course it
One
did,
problem they ran into was that once controlled by the Plaga, the host became so simple-minded that they were incapable of any sort of complex task. So to tackle that, they created a superior species which would allow the host's cognitive functions to be unaffected. Sadler's plan was to infect Ashley with this superior species and then send her back home, as she would be the one to spread this gift. The researcher who had achieved this breakthrough, Annabel Escudero, planned to administer the superior plaga to the high-ranking researchers, and that, of course, included Luis, which was how he got infected. Truth be told, Sadler had more interest in the plaga's ability to control, as opposed to their abilities to produce powerful bioweapons. Sadler was impressed that a single injection could turn an otherwise hostile person into a faithful servant,
slave.
which leads us on to the villagers. I previously mentioned that the small village of Valdalobos was Catholic, so Sadler would target Chief Mendez. In his second volume of the Village Records, we can see here that Mendez wrote about a strange group of black-robed people entering into the village, and they raised their flag with a sort of spider-type insignia on it, preaching about salvation and forgiveness. They had injected the villagers with something, something they claimed would cure the villagers of madness. Then, as detailed in the third volume of Mendez's Village Records, we can see that the villagers had completely changed. The farming and the agricultural responsibilities were being neglected, and the cows not being fed were growing thin. Less workers meant no crops were being harvested, and villagers started starving. But their loyalty and devotion to their new lord, Osman Sadler, did not wane. They adored him so much that they abandoned their Catholic faith in exchange for this new one.
Now.
And they'd be referred to as ganados, which means cattle. By the winter, 30 villagers had died from starvation, so 5 cows were slaughtered. Lots were cast, and 6 villagers were chosen for Lord Sadler, and this number only increased over the coming weeks. It may have seemed to the villagers that Los Iluminados had come out of nowhere, but in fact, they had been nearby on the island, where they'd not only been researching and adapting the ancient parasitic organism, but also built up the large militia on the island. Jack Krauser had helped Los Iluminados build the island's defenses, and he had been swayed by Los Iluminados' ambitions and world domination. But back to it for now.
Fucking Krauser.
Leon convulses in pain, while Sadler screams about the mercy the plagas bring. Thankfully, Sadler's control of Leon is broken as Ada shoots at him, having heard a distress call from a tracker she placed on Leon. She says she'll cover him, so Leon grabs Ashley and sets off to find Luis's lab, whilst Ada engages Sadler in battle. Ada defeats him and grabs the amber, but he isn't dead, and he knocks her out. Carrying Ashley, Leon has visions, clearly on his way to becoming one with the body, just as Sadler said. Making it to the lab and using Luis's key, they've got to the equipment. Leon places Ashley on the chair, and he starts the procedure. It's painful, as it uses radiation to burn the parasite out of the body, but it's successful. However, Leon collapses.
No.
He comes to not long after, and it seems that Ashley saved him by performing the procedure on him herself. With them both now parasite-free, Ashley shows Leon a map that shows how they can get out of there, so they go and prepare to leave the island.
You gotta get her
Before
off.
leaving though and having a snoop on the computer there, Leon reads that Luis found an amber sample, and that testing it contains the same organ found in Sadler, which is a dominant species plaga, only this one, when fully mature, could surpass even Sadler's strength. On attempting to leave, Leon spots Ada tied up and hanging on a chain. Sadler clearly left her here as bait. Leon tells Ashley to stay there, and he descends via the elevator. He shoots her bindings, freeing her, but Leon is immediately swarmed by Novistadors. Sadler appears and grabs Leon with a horrid tentacle. Ada then returns the favor and interrupts Sadler. Both of them fire on him, and he mutates while still telling them they should be one with them.
Here's the
and they require absolution.
My God.
Targeting his weak points, Leon fights mutated Sadler, defeating him. But he mutates again and has now grown to a ridiculous size. With Leon below and peppering him with firepower, Ada rushes to provide Leon with something with a little bit more kick. So she fights through militiamen and throws down a rocket launcher, and Leon gladly picks it up and fires it at Sadler. Leon then gets up close and stabs Sadler with his own staff, and he's finally dead. With the amber sample lying next to him, Leon goes to pick it up, but Ada does so before him. She says that she and Luis had an arrangement, and she promises to take good care of it. A chopper arrives to extract her, and she asks if he wants a lift. But Leon says it's best if they go their separate ways. With the bombs that Wesker had placed around the base now being on a timer, Ada chucks him a set of keys for a jet ski. Leon needs to get out of there with Ashley, and they descend in the elevator. On the jetty, they see a plaga inside the tube.
They do need to go separate ways.
Militiamen convulsing on the ground as Sadler is dead. Using the jet ski, they speed through the collapsing
I'm surprised he
tunnels
doesn't
and
fight
manage to
Wesker.
escape. Their ordeal is over. Back on Ada's chopper, she holds up the amber and contacts Wesker. He's happy, and Ada asks him what he's planning to do with the sample, and he, rather annoyed, tells her that he doesn't pay her to ask questions. Wesker says a new dawn is breaking, that 100 may die if one is able to live. Ada asks if this means millions will die, but Wesker replies, billions. She rolls her eyes, sarcastically saying, how ambitious. She then pulls a gun on the pilot and tells him they're changing course. Wesker hears Control asking why they're flying off course and smirks. Someone then tells Wesker that the explosions failed to detonate simultaneously and that only 50% of the island has been destroyed, which he realizes was the work of Ada. He wonders what he should do with Ada, and the guy he is in conversation with tells Wesker that her chopper is still in range, but Wesker lets her go. It seems that Ada betraying him has no impact on what he wants to do next. In fact, he preempted it. As he walks over to Krauser's body, which he'd recovered after Leon had killed him, as Krauser has a dominant Plaga sample in him, so Wesker has what he needs. He walks out onto the deck of a ship, saying that the sun will soon set on the Age of Man.
Wesker's freaking scheme.
Now, also in 2006, the BSAA received intelligence on the location of Oswald Spencer. Their tip-off was very likely Ada Wong, so they sent in Chris and Jill. The BSAA wanted Spencer captured due to the fact that he may know, or at least have a clue, as to the location of Albert Wesker. After they arrive at Spencer's huge estate, they find all of his security staff dead. This mansion is the one that the one in the Arklay Mountains was based upon. After managing to evade traps, they find Spencer and he's dead. A stroke of luck as Wesker is there, having killed Spencer. Ricardo Irving obviously passed on the info. But essentially, Wesker had found out from Spencer about Project W, one of his eugenics programs, which, if you didn't catch it in part 1, was a project where gifted children were raised by the ideals of Spencer himself, with all of these children having received the last name Wesker. Spencer tells Albert he's the only one that survived, but it's not entirely true. Another he created, as we've just mentioned, was called Alex Wesker, but she was told about the program, whereas this Wesker
she knew it.
He told him he was the only one, so he wouldn't go after Alex. Chris and Jill stumbling upon Wesker was not really a stroke of luck, though, as Wesker, due to having superhuman abilities, which Chris knows all about after getting his ass kicked back in the Antarctic, overpowers them both. With Wesker about to kill Chris, Jill throws herself at him, crashing through the window, and both falling to their deaths. 3 years have now passed, and in 2009, in the Kijuju Autonomous Zone in West Africa, a cloaked woman wearing a mask stands over a man who is on his knees. The man convulses whilst a BSAA team walks off, investigate possible the black market. In this, Chris meets up with his new partner, Sheva, high in the area due to recent changes in government following a civil war. That, coupled with the bioweapons smuggling going on, and the region being a haven for terrorists, makes Kijuju a very dangerous place. Ever since Jill's death, Chris has been wondering if this is all worth fighting for. But anyway, they need to meet up with the BSAA's Alpha team, whose mission was to capture a bioweapons smuggler named Ricardo Irving, who is conducting a black market bioweapons deal right there in Kijuju. Walking through a small village, they spot some men beating something tied up in a sack. An alarm then sounds and everyone disappears. Chris and Sheva meet up with their BSAA contact at a butcher's shop to arm up, but before they leave, the contact asks Chris what he knows about something called Ouroboros, to which Chris replies that he's only heard rumours about it and its connection to some kind of doomsday project. Not long after the contact departs, Chris and Sheva find the remains of dead animals, almost like they were sacrificed in some kind of grotesque ritual. They also find a very welcoming note that states all outsiders will receive the blade of punishment. Hearing a scream, they investigate and encounter two men forcing something cult-like into the mouth of another man. As this man struggles on the ground and convulses, the two other men run off. The man attacks Chris and Sheva, and they are forced to take him out.
It's always
they leave the
so
area, but are confronted by an angry
everywhere.
mob who chase them to an underground passage, which eventually leads them to a
I
square.
guess that's what they're trying to
To
make
their
on
dismay,
purpose.
their contact has been captured and is executed by, well, the executioner. Chris and Sheva are then spotted by an agitator, drawing the mob upon them. They have to fight for their lives whilst awaiting backup in the form of a chopper. It eventually arrives and takes out a gate, allowing Chris and Sheva to leave. They come across a woman who is running from someone, and catching up to her, she falls into the arms of Chris, but then she changes and attacks him. Injuring the woman forces her to mutate. She's infected, and this looks strikingly similar to the Plaga Leon encountered back in Spain. They eventually find Alpha Team, but they were wiped out after Irving unleashed the BOW on them, and their leader hands Chris and Sheva a data file but then dies. It's not long before they come across the BOW which took out Alpha Team, and after defeating it with the help of a furnace, they find Alpha Team's vehicles. Little do they know they are being observed on a camera by Ricardo Irving alongside the woman in the blue cloak, and they make a swift departure. Chris uses a computer in one of the vehicles to upload
Cult
the data
leaders at every location.
He contacts HQ and tells them he's seeing similarities here to the Ganados detailed in Leon's report. HQ tells them their mission still stands, that they need to capture Irving, and they think that he's fled to the mines on the other side of the train station.
You've been reading Leon's reports.
Since it's just the two of them now.
When do these two link up?
The BSAA Delta team have been dispatched and are on their way there. They will need to push on towards the mines regardless of their concerns. They do push on, seeing that this virus is also affecting animals, but Chris and Sheva get surrounded by a group of hostile locals, known as Magini, on motorbikes. They're saved by the BSAA Delta team led by Captain Josh Stone. Josh, who knows Sheva personally, gives Chris a data file containing pictures of research they'd collected. In one of these images is Jill, and as you'll remember, Jill plunged to her apparent death alongside Albert Wesker 3 years prior. On a desk there, Chris can find a document relating to the
She alive?
plague, and it's about to make a little bit more sense as to why they're seeing similarities here to what Leon mentioned in his report. So you'll remember that Wesker took a plaga sample from Jack Froze's body, and he gave this sample to Tricell, who genetically modified it. In the aftermath of what happened in Spain, buyers on the black market were interested in the control aspect of the plaga, into it creating obedient subjects, but many expressed a concern at the time it took from the point of infection to full maturation of the plaga, so research began to
The
create
lore
the
has won
type
me
2
over.
plaga.
I am
The
going
type 2 meant that the
to
plaga was already
eventually
fully
start
matured
getting through
and was
these games
introduced to the
myself.
host, and that means that the host can be almost instantly controlled. The most effective method is
I need a
forcing it
buddy.
into the mouth of the
I
host.
need a.
Plan here was to introduce it in the autonomous zone and record
I need to
field
put
data.
this game on easy
But
or
Chris and
something.
Sheva need to move on to find Irving. Despite their concerns due to the danger, they reach the mine and work their way
He got
through it.
his
And on the
jet.
other side, confront Irving, who was
He got
rescued by
fucking
the woman in
guns,
the
though.
cloak. Checking out what Irving was looking at, they find pictures of what looks like oil fields, along with a map of an experiment execution area. Sheva says that the oil fields are in the marshlands, but they're interrupted by more Regini, who attack them. Shortly afterwards, Chris and Sheva have to fight another BOW.
What the
this
fuck
time
is
a
that?
sort of bat variant.
Oh, and it's
after
huge,
defeating this thing, they're picked
as
up by a
usual.
member of the BSAA, who drives them across the African savannah to meet up with Delta Team. They take out loads of Magini on the way across it all on bikes. But whilst fighting them, Josh contacts them and tells them about the villagers being infected with Las Plagas, but they doesn't know
Just
what
with
this
the-
has to do with the Ouroboros.
Boom, hit him with
When they
the
arrive
saw.
and to meet up with Delta Team, they find that it's been wiped out, and Josh is nowhere to be found. They then get ambushed by the thing that wiped out Delta Team. It's a huge BOW by the name of Indesu, which has parasites in its body just like Alicante in Spain. Using mountain machine guns on a truck, they finally take it down. They then
my
decide
dumb
to
ass,
leave the area and abandon the mission itself. Chris
while
comes
I
to
was
Sheva,
over there
although the mission sent
coughing,
them there,
if you
Chris sees
can't
him
tell
intel
in
for
the
mission
video,
until he's alive.
I'm
He
using
says that
the
because
mic,
he has a personal stake in the mission,
because I'm
seeing all the
trying to
death
be
around
good
Chris
to
wants
you
Sheva out,
guys.
but she chooses to stick with him, saying his
And-
people are dying. After they hop
Yep,
aboard an airboat,
I
Sheva reveals
forgot
the
to
reason she
turn
joined the
it back
BSAA.
up.
When she was a child,
And
she
I
grew up in
just
an area
go
in which was
on
umbrella
and
factory.
talk
The factory staff
for
were
the
able to
next
take the
16
population of the area. At
minutes
some point in time, the factory suffered an incident
without
in which BOW escaped
actually
from tanks were being held,
recording
killing
any of
research
this
and workers.
out.
Umbrella did what they
So,
do best and sent in a cleanup crew. And I say
all
cleanup, I
good,
mean kill
because
him.
I'm
Both of
going
Sheva's
to
parents
go
worked at the factory,
ahead
and as a result, they
and
died.
voice
So that's why Sheva
over
joined the
some
BSAA
of the
in order to make
thoughts and
Umbrella pay,
stuff that
and
I
he
was
reduced
thinking
bioweapons for
about
that matter. But back to the
through
story,
the
Chris and Sheva arrive
finale
at a place in the
here
marshlands, home to the
of
Empire, an indigenous tribe originated in part 1 that goes back millions of years. After
This
fighting
is
the
where they're
understanding hostile
going and
Empire
they're
people, Chris and
actually
Sheva survive their
dealing with
adventure,
that
and they find documents
tribe,
that paint a picture of
that
what happened.
giant
The
tribe
diary
that
written by one
was
of the youths in
on
this village
part
states that Sheva
1
said he was the foreman of the
that
oil
actually
plant.
grows
In
from
order to
the
inoculate everyone
flower.
living near the oil field in
But
order to protect them against some disease. This foreman was Ricardo Irving.
it's
This youth was
this
wary given that
dude.
generations prior had been tricked by
He's
people who
over
stole their land
here,
to turn it into
he's
an oil
over
field. The youth
here,
does say that ever since, these people have
turning
shown
the
remorse for what they did,
children
even
in
built
the
the gondola.
fields.
Everyone in the village was happy to receive
But
the medicine, but this youth didn't want it. He's
we
got a bad
end up
feeling for the
getting
foreman.
to him.
Then not long after getting inoculated, the villagers were speaking loudly to the
And
villagers'
he
children.
will
So,
turn
next to know
tide
all these
and
children
kind
were
of
dead,
talk
and he
to
went
us,
to the oil
but
fields, he wanted to know what the
he
medicine they were given was.
totally
Returned saying the
got
children
all
died
the
because they had
children
disease.
killed
They
in
were told
the
to go back and get more
village.
shots, and this village youth was forced to get one too. After this, the youth noticed people started to get very angry.
And
were fighting
then
one
he
another.
kept
The youth then wrote
tricking
later on
them.
about
He
feeling
got
something
them
moving
to
around
take
inside.
more. He
He saw
said
people in the
that
village
they
covering
were
themselves with war
sick,
paint, which was normal
to
so
the
young days when
point
they were
where
festive.
we'll see
Days later,
that
villagers were
even
screaming.
this
Most of
dude
the women
who's
had died, and the men
talking
were
right
fighting each
now
other. The youth's diary entries then
is
turned, and he started to talk about
actually
wanting to kill. As he appears comes to whatever was given to the
wants to
village.
kill
Upon reaching the
us.
oil field, they find Tricell tents there. Sheva questions why a key funder of the
Dirty.
BSAA is there at these oil fields.
Of course. And then I cough on the
Inside one of the
recording
tents there, Chris
too.
finds a file on Type 3
My
plagas.
bad, guys.
The researchers have gone to improve the
Now,
plaga even further. The Type 3 was designed to
Type
explain
3
how to ability of
plagas.
Type 1 and Type 2 plagas. They found
Right?
that the dominant species plaga back in Spain.
So
provide
what
a host with
they,
physical
the
abilities,
funny
these types were
thing
not only
is
limited in
they
number, but also
want
forced to be
super
dangerous.
soldiers,
They
right?
combine these
And they
bioweapons
can
wanted
get
to
them
create normal
super, but
super
they
soldiers.
also
And these side
want
effects were putting people off.
complete control
Researchers thought
of
about
them.
producing something similar
And
to
what
Las
do they
plagas,
keep
but they would
doing
come
when they
closely
keep
affinity
doing
as
this?
plagas for human
They
hosts.
keep
By using the support of the plaga and
physically
planting
getting
the
them
genes of
all
dominant or
beasted
control
like
plaga,
they
managed to
want,
produce a Type 3 plaga, which researchers believe
but
would
they
become
are
more standard when it comes to
completely
violent acts. However, this
uncontrollable,
document mentions the
but
field
they
test,
keep
which the village youth
trying.
wrote about.
And
They
it
talked about
just
Type 3
doesn't
not
make
adhering to women and
sense to
children,
me
which is
in
why the
that
women just
way
sat around
that
and the children just died. The adherence rate
they
remained
are
largely percentage, why they were started to fight each
absolutely
other. This
cool
movement,
with
therefore, this Type
creating
3
the
plaga is not suitable
monsters
for use
that they
commercially, and it
can't
doesn't produce an
control
adequate
them.
product. It did bring out some more
Always.
positive physical attributes in test subjects, though, so significant fighting
Always,
differences. Reaching the oil
always
plant, they have to fight their way
blow up
through
in
it
their
again, and making their way
face.
through, they find an injured Josh.
Now,
More Magini attack, and the 3 BSAA agents have to work together to survive.
Chris and
Getting
the
outside, they
chick,
spot
they
Irving,
find
who
their
escapes on
other
the boat, so Chris,
homie
Sheva,
here,
and Josh
and
back
he
in.
joins
He was
up
shot at by
with the
Magini on his boat,
squad.
they managed to get on board. Now he's cornered with nowhere left to run.
They chase
Irving
down
injects
the
himself with
ship.
something. It's actually a dominant species plaga. It goes as well as one can
This
expect.
dude,
Irving turns into a
because
BOW
he's
with Chris and
scared,
Sheva
he
in
hits
defeat.
himself with
Interesting
dominant
thing to note is that
species,
Irving's
and
mutation is entirely
apparently
dependent on the
it
environment around
adapts
him.
to
Since
whatever
he's
your
moving towards
environment
mutation,
you're
it's
in.
turned him into
So
some sort of sea
turns into
creature.
a
For dying, he mentions a
goddamn
name.
Leviathan.
Exiled, remember, is director of the
We
West
smoke
African
him,
Tricell.
for
Just want to know about the
sure.
Ouroboros project.
And then he
Never
has a
mentions the
change
Ouroboros
of
changing
heart,
everything
and
they
he
come to know about
just
the world.
spills the
Tells British
beans.
Everett
He
surgeon
just
by Cake
sings
the
like a canary.
Meanwhile, somewhere else, in Western and
and
Center, talking
ends
about their
up
preparations.
telling
They're
us
nearly complete.
everything.
That means they can leave soon.
Then you
She
have
injects
this
Wesker with
chick
something
who's
that's a
in
serum
love
called
with
PGC7-A.
Wesker.
It keeps the
She's
T-virus in
giving
Wesker's
him a
body stable,
stable
but it does not use the
form
strength. It has to be the exact dose to have the desired effect.
to
Exiled talks about
make
how
it so
surprised she was
that
that Las Plagas was a success.
he keeps
She
his
had her doubts.
strength up
Says
and
that
he
Ouroboros
doesn't
is completely complete.
great.
He tries to hit on
She's
Wesker,
out
saying
here
she should be
with
with
the
him in his
titties,
new world.
telling him, hey,
He's not interested in
bring
her
me
advance.
into the
The woman in the
new
blue
world.
arrives, saying that the BSAA are
I'll
there.
shake
The mere
it up
mention of
for
Chris
you.
causes Wesker to smirk, but he says the Ouroboros plan is in its final stages and he won't tolerate any delays. Chris and Sheva search this
He's
cave, and it
such
turns out
a
to be the ancient
monster.
underground
I don't
civilization
think
that was
he
and still
even
is
cares about
home
pussy
to the Empire.
anymore.
They seem to be
So,
fiercely guarding something, and sure enough,
we go
Chris
and
and Sheva soon
find
find out what that
the
is.
main
The
city.
flower, or more specifically the Sun Trap flower,
And it's
whose stairway
crazy.
to the
This
sun.
is
This
where
flower
they're
needs to grow and
going to
maintain itself under very
reflect
specific
their light
conditions,
and actually
hence why they
find
built
the
this underground
source
city
of the
and let as much natural light
flowers.
as possible. So as explained back in part 1, the Empire tribe used a strange flowering rituals called the Sun Trapper. This flower was
And
discovered by
we're
British
also
explorer
still
Henry Travis
wondering
Oswald. Spencer had random
who
alien
that
Dr. James Marcus go and find out more about it.
chick
Discovered that the flower
is.
contained within them an RNA
Well,
virus. It would go on to be the progenitor virus, which would itself be
It's not
developed
going to be
into
hard to
T-virus. So the
figure
flower
it
itself,
out if you've
was there,
been
they spotted
keeping
something very
up with
familiar
the
to them. They were
story.
able to spot the umbrella logo on some very old equipment.
Right
They also
here,
spot
he
more
finds
triceps.
the
Journeying into a
umbrella
facility built into the
thing
rock,
and
Brandon
Triceps,
Bailey,
they know
researching
they're
and sending out
doing
samples
this.
together to his colleagues. They fight various test subjects that are out and roaming free in the lab and come across a huge
Smashes
facility that
the
houses many pods,
liquors,
seemingly
and
containing test
then
subjects.
they
Running
find
over
all
to a
these
computer is evidence basically run by
pods,
Tricel 2.
which is
Chris searches the
crazy.
computer
He
Jill's
just
pod, and the elevator
taking
takes them down to
people.
where her
He
pod is,
finds
and then
Jill's
interrupted.
pod.
Another BOW, this time a huge spider.
Go down there,
After chucking
kill
a number
the
of grenades into
thing.
his gob,
Surprise, surprise, she won't be in the
Exiled
pod.
only comes upon screen and tells him to
Right.
leave. She plays the fool when asked about Jill's whereabouts and reveals that she was the one who
Then
ordered the BSAA.
Titties is over here.
Chris demands to know where Jill is, but she refuses to tell them anything.
She
Advises
won't
them
be
to leave,
trying to
but
kill
there's nothing
us.
there worth throwing their lives away over. Later on, after fighting through many infected militiamen,
She
Chris and
better.
Sheva intercept
She's
a radio
fucking
conversation between
dead.
Wesker and Exceller,
You know
but he
I
says that
can't
Ouroboros has been
mess
loaded.
with
Chris is surprised because as far as he was concerned, Wesker was dead. Fighting more
So
militiamen, they spot missiles with
we
the
just
Ouroboros
keep
and blazing from
destroying
inside.
all
That's how
her
they're planning on spreading the virus
ploys to
around.
find
Even
out
though
they
Ron
have
Nichols is
all
Exceller's
these
flesh, but he
missiles
unleashes
and
the
they're
BOW.
planning on
It's the Ouroboros
launching
virus.
them and
The rumors
just
are true.
turning the
But not to worry,
world
there's a rather conveniently
into
placed
this
flamethrower nearby which
virus.
they use to beat it. Pushing further on, they meet
Of
Exceller,
course,
who's
there
the
was
code
just a
one. She attacks them.
flamethrower
Chris
laying
shoots the
there.
mask off of her,
We got
and
to
Wesker shows
use
up, pulling
it.
back the woman's hood, and it's Jill. Well, we didn't see
And
that
the
one coming.
masked
Chris
chick
tries to talk to
is
Jill, but she attacks him again.
Jill.
In classic Wesker style, he claims he can only spare 7 minutes to fight.
She's
With Wesker's
completely
ability, Chris and Sheva
controlled
must try
by
and hide in
Wesker,
survive
though.
for 7 minutes.
He
But their
pulls
bullets
all
don't
his
hurt. Eventually, Wesker gets bored and
matrix
departs,
moves on
leaving
us.
Jill to kill Chris and Sheva. It seems Jill is under the control of a
drops
contraption, which leaves her
her
highly
off
open to
with-
manipulation by Wesker. Chris tries to reason with the party that knows him.
We
Eventually, they manage to
actually
remove
end
the
up
device from
pulling
him.
the
Let's break for a second and
control
talk about
chip out of her
Ouroboros.
chest,
So what is it?
and she's back
Well, it all
to
comes down to the night
normal.
Wesker killed
So
Spencer.
Jill's
Found out he was
not
a subject
dead
of the
now,
Death Program
which is
himself.
kind of
Spencer would reveal that
awesome.
Umbrella was set
I
up by him
was
in the first place
super
in order to create
excited
Rush,
about
perfect
that,
race of humans that
actually.
could take humanity forward.
Because when
Wesker
she
thought humanity in its
died,
current
I
form was a
hated
problem, so
it.
thought about using progenitor against the entire world. Progenitor would kill those without the right genetics to accept it.
This
This was
is
seeing the
when
age of
Wesker
the Empire, and
smokes
all others would perish.
pops.
Now, when Jill threw herself at Wesker and the two didn't die, contrary to what Chris thought, perfect test subject for this virus.
Not
Something that
really
Wesker
his
would
pops, though. They all
Ouroboros.
took his
The
name
only thing is,
on.
Jill had T-virus
He didn't
antibodies
know he
inside her.
got
They
it.
used these to create a less potent virus strain, which is Ouroboros. Thousands of subjects were kidnapped from all parts of the world and stored in Tricel's huge facility until research was finalized on the virus.
Oh
As we
yeah.
saw, it had been loaded
Oh
with
yeah,
missiles,
yeah.
ready
So
to be
now we
dispersed.
got to destroy the
Unfortunately, there was a
missiles.
fire broke out with the first lot of missiles being housed, and this resulted in a new species being birthed, Reapers. Now she's come to her senses. Jill tells Chris and Sheva that she couldn't control her actions, but that she was still fully aware.
She's on her
She
team
says they
now.
need to stop
She's
Wesker.
ready
Not
to
long after
go
they sinks the
down,
ship. Making
smash
their way
the
through the ship,
crew.
which holds a large number of BOWs.
So
They
our
come across
crew
Exceller,
keeps
who when
getting
confronted,
bigger.
runs off and
Got
drops a
these
brief
dirty
and
things.
syringes. Catching up to her again, Chris and Sheva discover
Tight
that Exceller has
thing
been
is,
infected with
she
Ouroboros.
dropped.
She's devastated. She called her and Wesker would usher
Wesker turns on her
Exceller then
and he
transforms
gives
into
her
a
the
huge
thing.
BOW, and this
She's
is
so
the Ouroboros
mad,
virus.
and it rejects her
Reaching
and she
Exceller is
turns
huge.
into a
Requires a lot of firepower to bring it
monster
down.
monster.
After defeating Exceller, Chris and Sheva spot an assault bomber and
Of
a hand
course,
on the
they
ship.
had
It's
no
clear that
they
Wesker was
use
planning to use this to
satellites
spread
or
Ouroboros
something.
around the
They
world. It's possible
take
the
her
monitors
out
will
with
stop
some
it.
big
Jill
weapons.
calls Chris and Sheva
Now
reveals that Jill was
coming
maintaining
down
a
to
superhuman ability.
stopping the
Wesker had breaking the
missiles,
doses of the serum.
stopping
She reveals that
Wesker.
injecting too much.
Jill's
Overdose
gotta
will
meet
effectively
us.
poison him. Sheva recalls the
She
syringe
lets
that Exceller
us
dropped earlier on.
know
She has one
that,
there.
hey,
The plan is
giving them
formulated.
those
Chris and Sheva
vials,
make
if you
the
overdose them, it'll wreck them. Which I have no idea. Why the hell did they just not start with the vials up front? Because they waited, and what happens? He beats the shit out of them. Quit trying to fight him. He can dodge bullets. You can't beat him. I mean, he's goddamn Neo right now. And then throws him over the edge, and then they finally have the bright idea to like, okay, we'll hit him with the shots now. God damn, that's a clean fight though. He is schooling him. Okay, you decided to do it. So shoot, you gotta get close. Oh shit, the missiles are out.
Facing off against him, after Wesker catches rockets, because of course he can, Chris shoots the rocket, stunning him, and they restrain him, injecting the serum. Now overdosing in incredible pain, Wesker boards the stealth bomber, and Chris and Sheva scramble to get aboard before he able to escape. As he takes off, Chris and Sheva are able to board it, confronting Wesker again. Says that in 5 minutes they'll be at optimal altitude, release Ouroboros into the atmosphere. A fight ensues, and Chris injects Wesker with more serum. Chris pulls the bomber's override lever,
They
causing the doors
open
to
the
open,
thing,
and the bomber then crash lands in a volcano.
crash
Wesker is, of
in
course,
a
still alive, and in an
volcano
act of
zone.
complete
He
madness, punches
jumps
through
out,
the Ouroboros missiles, and the virus
transforms.
takes him over. After punching a huge rock into
Oh,
submission,
because
Chris
he
to work together
on
to
the
beat Wesker,
frickin'
and defeat him with
virus.
falling into the lava, just as Josh and Jill arrive with the chopper.
And then they drop him in the lava, but no one ever dies, and he doesn't die, and he grabs it.
Fire 2 rockets straight into
Until
Wesker.
now, they finally kind of making
Chris
it
realizes
sound
now
like he
that it
might
is all worth fighting
actually
for.
be
Following the year,
dead.
Jill went to rehab after what happened at the hands of Wesker, and Chris was promoted
So,
within the BSAA to captain of their special
good
operations
for
unit,
us.
and would train new BSAA recruits, such as a hotshot young
Okay,
sniper
so
by the
now
name
he's
of
got his
Piers
girl
Nivens.
back. He's got a new squad. Stuff's looking up. We're going to be moving on to RE6.
In 2011, Claire Redfield is at a
We'll
Terror
skip
Save
Revelations.
event. Terror
I'll see you
Save is
there.
an NGO that she now works for.
All right, part 6. Let's
It's
go.
now December 2012. A mercenary named Jake Muller is in war-torn Eastern European state,
Jake
Estonia.
Muller.
The country, like the Eastern Slav Republic, is in the
Mercenary.
throes of a civil war which was being fought between the pro- and anti-government
That looks
factions
like
and the
Chris.
country's military, but is now being fought between the country's military and the Estonian Liberation Army. Jake is one of many mercenaries who are guns for hire for the rebels. He takes a shot of something which seems to have no effect on him.
He's just
but
over
the
here
Adonian rebels
juicing
he's with take
with
the
the
same
virus.
shot and turn into violent hostile creatures called Juavo, and one of them attacks Jake. After dealing with it, he is approached by a DSO agent from the US government, or more specifically one of their agents called Sherry Birkin.
Birkin?
Yep, the same Sherry Birkin from the Raccoon City incident
Hey,
over a decade
yo.
earlier. Upon their escape, they seem to have been watched by Ada Wong, and they have to escape
Ada's
the
just out
battlefield
here
in which
again
the
with her titties
BSAA
out.
are engaging any Juavo they see. When safe, Sherry informs Jake that his blood contains rare antibodies that could be used in an
You're in a civil war. That was just a chopper shooting at you this time. No zombies. Interesting. And he handled the zombies like easy. So he's got super blood. She's got super blood. Definitely, because the doctor dosed her up since childhood. That was a chopper shooting at you. That was a chopper shooting at you. You're in a civil war. There was no zombies. A little bit different there. He smoked up the zombies. So, superhero dude over here. She's got the super blood in her. Let's go.
antidote for a virus called the C virus. Of course, with
Wait. And he has super blood, like she just said. He has the antidote in him?
Jake being a mercenary, he requests $50 million in exchange for his blood, to which the DSO agrees, much to Jake's surprise. After
50
escaping,
mil.
they are hunted by a massive creature called Ustanak, and they once again manage to escape after defeating it.
Ustanak is
They run into
monstrous.
a BSAA squad led by Chris Redfield, whose team had been dispatched to Adonia to investigate the presence of Juavo in
What's
the
up,
region.
Chris?
Piers identifies Jake as a wanted insurgent, and Chris takes a long look.
There's our boy.
After taking out some anti-aircraft guns
Oh.
and fighting a massive BOW, Chris once again thinks he knows Jake, thinks they've met before.
Oh, he's got beast strength. He loaded shells right into the monster.
The BSAA and Jake and Sherry part ways and take off in a helicopter.
So he's saying he knows him? He recognizes him from what?
Will take them to the DSO. During Jake and Sherry's journey, the BSAA team led by Chris arrive at City Hall. They encounter what appear to be cocoon.
First off, that has the very mansion feel of the other ones, and the statue in the middle kind of gives me the feeling back from the police station in RE3. Now that was a goddess. This one looks like it's a dude, but it's the same idea.
BOWs and fight various other BOWs throughout the building. They see a woman in a blue dress. It's Ada Wong. She informs them that the Juavo came from the C virus and have been supplied to the rebels fighting in the Civil War by a company named Neo Umbrella, who she claims are an organization that are supporting the rebels in the Civil War. The C virus, or chrysalid virus, is something Chris and Pierce have encountered before when on mission in Asia during an outbreak at a school in Kudankan. Chris offers to escort Ada through the building, but she traps them by separating Chris and Pierce from the other 4 squad members. She unleashes a needle bomb into the air loaded with the C virus, and Chris and Pierce can only watch on as their fellow men mutate into chrysalids and then into creatures called napads, the largest BOW that they just fought. One of their squad mates, Finn, who is now mutated into a napad, attacks Chris, beating him to the point where he starts to lose consciousness. Nonetheless, Pierce manages to drag him to safety. Meanwhile, Jake and Sherry are on their way to meet with the DSO, but they are attacked by the Ustanak and a hostile group called the Family. They defeat Ustanak, but the helicopter crash lands.
Oh, he's a beast.
Fortunately, Jake and Sherry manage
Grabs
to use
the
a parachute to land
jumps
safely.
out, grabs her.
However, due to the debris from the helicopters flying by them, Sherry is injured. Jake pulls an object from her body, and it's revealed that Sherry has incredible regenerative abilities. Because she was infected with Golgotha by her father back in Raccoon City in 1998, Sherry has a G-virus variant inside her body. Jake and Sherry have lost 3 drives containing Jake's biometric data, and without that they are hosed as they can't make a vaccine. So after retrieving the 3 drives, they take shelter from a snowstorm inside a shack.
This is moving faster than even those other ones that move fast. And it's a little bit more all over the place.
Their shelter doesn't last for long though, as they are attacked by Juavo. Jake and Sherry use 2 nearby snowmobiles to make a swift exit and to escape a deadly avalanche.
Damn.
They end up inside a nearby mine and
It's like frickin'
they are
Tomb
being
Raider.
hunted by Ustanak again. Again, Jake and Sherry escape the mine, but just as they exit, they are captured by the Family and Ada Wong, who refers to Jake as Wesker Jr., telling Jake that Albert Wesker
Which Wesker?
was his father, which is news to Jake. She says this makes him the heir to a very special blood type. What on earth is Ada Wong up to? Anyway, 6 months have now passed since Jake and Sherry's capture. Our
he's
focus
special,
shifts to Leon
special.
Kennedy. On 29th of June 2013, President Benford had scheduled a speech on the fight against terrorism at the Ivy University in a United States city called Tall Oaks. It didn't exactly go to plan as an outbreak occurred. President Benford was infected with the C virus, and Leon has to put him down.
Leon
Also
the
present during
president.
this incident is United States Secret Service agent Helena Harper.
Leon
Helena
capped the
appears to say that
president.
this is all her fault and that she did this.
What did you do?
Leon tries to get more information out of her, but Helena says that if they can get to the Tall Oaks Cathedral, she'll explain everything. They both make their way through the campus, and the outbreak is out of control. Thousands are infected. Leon and Helena come across a group of survivors holding out at a gun shop, whilst they wait for a fellow survivor to arrive with a bus, take them out of the city and to safety.
Oh, you got the blob?
After a tense fight with the infected, they manage to board it.
He's got way
and
more
drive back
bullets
to
in
the
this
city.
game.
Contacting his handler, Hunnigan, she mentions that Neo Umbrella have claimed responsibility for the attack on Tall Oaks, to which Leon
Neo
replies,
Umbrella?
it's Raccoon City all over again. Hunnigan says she needs to know what's in the cathedral, as the National Security Advisor to President Benford, Derek Simmons, is there with Hunnigan and wants updates.
Evil.
The bus ride is going well. That is until an infected walks out.
I was just gonna say, that chick on the phone looks like she's been in a good spot because she's been avoiding all of the action. She can be helping, but she's not in the mix of it. Now that that dude's there, she's fucked. She's fucked.
In the middle of the road, causing the bus to swerve and balance precariously on a cliff edge. Survivors are
Come
attacked
on.
and the bus is rammed off the cliff by a speeding and out of control truck. Miraculously, Leon and Helena are the sole survivors of this incident, and in a massive stroke of luck, they are at the
Oh, and he
intended
snatches her in
destination,
the air.
the cemetery of the Tall Oaks Cathedral. They get through it, and after arriving in front of the cathedral, they fight creatures and are eventually let in by more survivors. Leon
Okay.
and Helena discover a secret entrance built into the altar, leading down into a sort of crypt. There isn't just lots of dust and rats down there, there's something called a Lepotica, a creature with pores on
Lepotica.
its body which emit a blue gas containing the C virus. Inhale it, and you turn, as this poor dude finds out.
What is that thing?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you, Leon. You've seen all kinds of zombies. It's squirted all over here.
Are you okay?
Don't touch him. Oh.
Anyway, after defeating this disgusting creature, Leon and Helena uncover an underground lab beneath the cathedral. The lab contains chrysalids and more infected. Helena states that she was there 3 days ago, and that these subjects weren't there then. Leon discovers a tape labeled Happy Birthday Ada Wong,
VHS,
and
though.
given his knowledge of her, he is
Happy
curious
birthday,
and plays the
Ada.
tape. It shows something called Project
Oh,
Ada
no.
and a cocoon hatching, and out of this cocoon comes Ada Wong. Leon is understandably confused. After more battles
What
against
the-
the infected, Leon and Helena push on through the lab, escaping through a chute, and further
no.
underground into a series of tunnels.
I would
In a
hate
large
doing
open
that.
area, Helena finds
You don't
what
know
she was
where you're
looking
going, you
for,
just-
her sister
oh.
Deborah. Deborah isn't in great shape, so Helena carries her.
Freaking twin.
After descending, Deborah begins to cry out and she turns into a chrysalid.
Ow.
She then hatches into, well, a naked
Shock
woman.
after shock.
Bolt flies out of nowhere and strikes Deborah, and it's Ada. He tells them she can't tell them what's going on as it's complicated. Deborah then mutates further and attacks the group.
Right
Deborah
in
is about
front
to
of her.
kill Helena, who is saved by Leon and Ada, and Deborah ends up falling to her death.
Damn.
Helena reveals that 3 days earlier, she and Deborah were captured by none other than Derek Simmons, the National Security Advisor. Helena reveals that she
Damn.
helped Simmons breach President Benford's security at the university, and that explains why Helena said that the outbreak and the death of the president was all her fault. Simmons had used her sister as leverage. Ada receives a call and she makes a swift exit. Leon calls Hunnigan to warn her about Simmons, but he takes over the call on her end. He frames
damn.
Leon and Helena for the death of the president and the attack on the university, and uses his position of
This is
power
all
to
over
deny
the
his
place.
involvement. Leon and Helena push on through some catacombs and meet another BOW. This time a sort of
Oi.
shark-like BOW. Eventually
He's
defeating it,
inside its
Leon
mouth.
and Helena escape the catacombs and see the city of Tall Oaks being sterilized.
So
Just
was
like
that
Raccoon
him or was
City
that her?
back in 98.
And
They
nuked
receive a
already?
call from Hunnigan, who informs them that Simmons has left and is heading for Langxiang in China. Alright, so what happened to Jake and Sherry then? Well, after they were taken by the family 6 months earlier, they were taken to a secret facility in China where Jake was experimented on. Being escorted by 2 of the Juavo mutants,
Okay.
Jake attacks them and escapes his confinement,
Dang, just
eventually meeting up
barehanded.
with Sherry. Jake says they were trying to use his antibodies to enhance the C virus, and they asked him about Alba Wesker. Sherry then contacts the DSO, finding out that Simmons traveled
This is going fast. It's because we're all over the place. But this dude got powers. I wonder what they're going to turn him into, or will he stay a pro tag? Interesting. Hopefully they don't smoke her. She's been around for a while.
To Lanxiang. Anyway, after intense fighting and taking out loads of Joavo, Jake and Sherry use a bike to escape the compound and they head towards Lanxiang.
They're doing wild
Eastern
stunts
Europe
on
again.
this.
Chris Redfield is
freaking
drunk in a
Uncharted.
bar. You see, when Chris was attacked back at the city hall in Adonia, he was beaten so badly that he suffered amnesia. He basically left the BSAA, but an old friend has been there watching him.
Classic gaming amnesia. They use that plot point so much.
Piers Nivens, but Chris doesn't remember him. After a minor confrontation with the local, it seems that Chris hasn't forgotten his training. Piers sits him down
And just when Jason Bourne, no memory, just smoked everybody.
and tells him about bioterrorism and about their squad that died back in Adonia, which seems to trigger some painful flashbacks. Piers tells him that they've been looking for him for 6 months and that everyone is waiting for him to come back. Turns out that most of the people in the bar
How'd they
are
lose
with
him, though?
Piers in the BSAA, and they take Chris back to the BSAA, and on June 30th, 2013, he joins them in their mission in Wayup, Lanxiang, where another Neo-Umbrella bioterror attack has just taken place. Chris and Piers also come face to face with the Joavo again, and they have to fight through the streets in order to reach a building known to them as the Ace of Spades, where some members of the UN are being held hostage. They free the UN.
Now 5 was having a shift to more shooting. I could definitely see it, but they got the co-op stuff going. But now you got Miss Birkin and Super Soldier, and then you also got Leon and the blasting the president. This story has taken a shift away from its survival horror roots. I can feel like, for me, it's still good right now, but it's moving so fast. While in the others, there was what seemed to be way more puzzling, way more tension. I don't need to say that twice. And kind of survival horror aspect. Well, this is becoming a little bit more action combat, or so it looks from the outside.
And members, but due to a BSAA airstrike, the team has to scramble to get out of the building before it's destroyed. Chris sees a load of chrysalids, and this triggers more memories to come back. He remembers that Ada killed his men and vows to get revenge. At this point, Jake and Sherry, still heading
That
towards
needle
Wayup,
bomb.
are being pursued by an attack helicopter.
Damn.
They jump a wall and crash their bike, and the BSAA see Jake and Sherry and help them in taking down the attacking helicopter. Chris once again stares intently at Jake as if he recognizes him, and Jake and Sherry leave to meet up with Simmons. Shortly after this, the BSAA Alpha team are attacked by a huge snake BOW, which one by one takes out their entire team apart from Chris, Piers, and Marco. Anyway, they kill the monster.
Anaconda.
However, after surviving this horrific BOW, Ada shoots Marco with a dart loaded with the C virus, and Marco turns into a chrysalid and then into a
She's not the real Ada. She's not the real Ada then.
mutation called a Nesdo, which is a swarm of insects controlled by
Unless Wesker got his hands on her.
a queen. After destroying the queen and taking Marco's C4, they then go after Ada, who the BSAA say has been spotted at the harbour. Fighting their way through it, Chris and Piers are ambushed by another attack chopper,
he's just
and
got
after getting rid of
rockets.
it, they arrive at some sort of research centre.
And they get
Whilst all
rid
this
of
was
the
happening,
chopper?
Leon and Helen are on a plane to China, and it all
Bruh,
kicks
this
off.
is
A
Call
couple
of
of
Duty.
Lepotica are on board, and they infect all the passengers. Leon and Helena kill the creature, and Leon tries to control the
How do you not breathe in the How do you not breathe in the blue spores if you're on a frickin' plane? It's a confined space, but I guess Leon's that dude.
plane, but it crash lands into Wayup. Jake and Sherry saw the plane go down, as did Ada, and Jake and Sherry rush to investigate. They meet up with Leon and Helena, and Sherry learns the hard truth, in that Simmons is responsible for the outbreak. Sherry doesn't want to believe it, but whilst they are talking, Ustanak turns up. After a fight, Ustanak legs it, and an explosion separates the two groups. Sherry tells Leon and Helena where she'll be meeting Simmons. Hunnigan reaches out to Leon and tells him that the building Sherry was talking about is not far away. Leon and Helena have to pass through a market and they see Ada, and they follow her into the facility. But of course, Ada is being hunted by Chris and Piers, who open fire on her. With both parties evading traps set by Ada, Chris and Piers
Everybody's
confront her.
here.
Chris is about to shoot her, but he's stopped by Leon. Leon and Chris fight, but then realize who each other are. Chris says Ada is working for Neo Umbrella, and despite hearing this, Leon says that he'll protect her. Whilst they're talking, Ada throws a flash grenade and escapes. Leon tells Chris they want the same thing, to stop the attack, and Chris says the BSAA will go after Ada.
You can't be giving her a soft spot. She did help you in the last two, but you could never trust her.
And Leon and Helena will go after Simmons. Leaving the warehouse, Leon and Helena come across Simmons and his men. Sherry and Jake turn up, and Sherry asks Simmons if he is responsible, to which he admits his involvement. In his words, for the benefit of the United States and global security. He calls for his men to dispose of them. Sherry hands Leon the drive with the information regarding the C virus and how to stop it, and the two groups separate again. Leon and Helena continue to go after Simmons, but Jake and Sherry are captured by a group of Dravo and imprisoned at an underwater oil field. But whilst his men are distracted, Simmons is injected with the C virus by Dravo and starts to mutate, saying, "She got me." Let's take a short break from the
Who's
plot
she?
and discuss a name that's cropped up a few times now, and that is the Family. The Family is a secret fraternity or shadow organization founded sometime between 1685 and 1815. This was a real-life period of time known as the Enlightenment period, an intellectual and philosophical movement which focused largely on global influence amongst other things. This is thought to be the time in which the Illuminati was started. In this case, the Family had very deep pockets, and the founders of this particular secret society were the Simmons family. Yep, that's right, Derek Simmons' family. Their base, or rather their headquarters, was based in Tall Oaks, accessed through, you guessed it.
The connection to real life continues with this Illuminati shadow organization, people with power controlling things. I keep seeing it more and more.
A secret entrance in the Tall Oaks Cathedral. The Family had their own goal, bioweapons development. It goes deeper. Simmons, being a US government official, was actually the one that ordered the strike on Raccoon City in The Family then, after the Raccoon City incident, redirected their goals fully towards bioweapons development. Simmons, still in the US government, became National Security Advisor to President Adam Benford, and the two were actually good friends. That wasn't until Benford became an enemy of the Family and Simmons. The reason? Well, Benford decided to consider releasing the details and the classified information regarding the Raccoon City incident.
Everything we know about the Raccoon City incident. But sir, a lot of people are questioning my desire to reveal the truth. I know where they're coming from. It might create more problems than it solves. A lesson I learned well in the military. Bioorganic weapons are a global threat.
Damn.
And we are partly to blame.
This dude's trying to do the right
We
thing
have
and
to
they
come
smoked
clean
him.
and start working with the rest of the world if we want to have any chance of fighting this.
How often have we heard a story like that
Whatever you decide,
in
sir,
real life?
I'm with you.
I've always valued your friendship, Leon. It's time we take responsibility and end this mess.
The Family thought that the damage to the US, and also the risk of exposing the combat data from the US Army operation in Raccoon City to potential enemies would be too much, and the Family considered that an act of treason. Simmons concocted a plan to take out President Adam Benford and covered it up as a bioterror attack, and you'll recall he'd used Helena's sister as leverage to get her to carry out the plan.
Yeah.
Back to it. Chris and Piers use a gambit to catch up with Ada, ending up on a ship in the docks. Fighting through the ship, they confront Ada on the ship's bridge, and Ada tells them her plan was to spread the C virus around the entire world. Basically Raccoon City 2.0, but this time, a global event. She tells them that the aircraft carrier is preparing for launch and is equipped with missiles loaded with the C virus, which will be launched shortly. One of Simmons' men turns up in a chopper and shoots Ada, and she falls to her death. She dropped her suitcase, which contains a sample of the virus. Chris tries to warn the BSAA that the terror attack was a diversion, and the real attack is to spread the virus globally. Leon and Helena catch up with Simmons, and after he heavily mutates into a dog-like creature, they defeat him. They fall into the river, and after getting to dry land, they discover the BSAA are escorting civilians of Wayup to somewhere else. Helena asks Leon if it's over, and he says that it is. They then hear that Sherry and Jake were abducted. They then realize that Jake is the key to stopping the C virus. After fighting their way through the carrier, Chris and Piers took control of a fighter jet in an attempt to stop a missile launch. But after fighting a huge BOW, they they fail.
This is very different than the normal Resident Evil DNA. Almost like they're trying to get more fans, make this game appeal to more people than going straight with their horror, survival horror, which from what I've seen in the oncoming trailers, it seems like they've gotten back to in 9. Now, obviously, I don't know anything about 7 and 8, and we'll learn. I wonder if those got back to it, but yeah, I can see the difference in this. And I wouldn't say it's better. I don't have the same tension or goosebumps or feeling that I did through RE0 through 4. Even 5 was a little different, but I won't say it was bad, but it was different.
Chris contacts Leon and tries to warn him, but it's too late. The missiles detonate over the city, unleashing the C virus on the population, and all hell breaks loose.
They did detonate it over the whole city. Oh my goodness.
Leon tells Chris that Sherry and Jake have been taken to the underwater oil field and asks him to help them. Leon breaks some shocking news to Chris. That Jake Muller is Albert Wesker's son and that he has antibodies for the C virus. Chris breaks the news to Leon that Ada is dead. Leon silently grieves, and he and Helena try desperately to escape the C virus along with the BSAA.
Breaking them
Fighting
into
through
each
hordes of
other.
infected, they get to a gambit and part ways with the BSAA
There's so
soldier.
many more zombies. It's
They
like
both get
World
knocked
War
out
Z
by an
in this
explosion
one.
from a gas tanker and wake to find chaos around them. They are confronted by an attack chopper, but to their surprise it's piloted by Ada, who helps them out. Leon and Helena escape
Different
down an alleyway,
Ada,
and
though.
after running from more explosions, they are rescued by the BSAA, who come to their aid in a chopper. One of the BSAA are infected, and Leon has to take control of the chopper, crash landing it in the lobby of a tower building. In the next room, they come face to face with Simmons, who is still alive.
This
He's
dude's
very
still
mad
going.
at Ada for some reason, claiming she took Wesker's son away. He mutates again, this time into a dinosaur, and Leon and Helena defeat him once again with the help
Excuse
of
me?
Ada and her chopper, and she heads to the roof. Leon and Helena use an elevator to get to the roof, and yep, Simmons is back again. He destroys their elevator
y'all
and they have to climb up the
never
elevator
kill.
cable. Ada is in the middle of fighting
At least something I will learn from this going in my run on RE9. These bad guys don't stop. You're gonna kill them like 10 times. They're never dead. Nothing ever dies in this world of zombies.
Simmons, and Leon
But,
ends
oh, he's back to nightmare
up
fuel
helping
though.
her. Ada stabs him in the torso and he falls into the fire below. Leon and Helena continue onto the roof, and surprise, surprise, they are ambushed by Simmons, who this time turns into a massive insect-like creature.
Surprise!
Using an
oh, he
electricity rod, they defeat him, and he falls to his death, being impaled on a spike. Ada left Leon and Helena a chopper along with a drive containing evidence that will prove their innocence, as remember, they've been framed for the murder of President Benford, and that evidence will prove Simmons' guilt. And they use the
Nice.
chopper to escape. So, Ada is good now? Let me explain.
Different data.
You'll have noticed that Ada was wearing blue, and at some points she was wearing red.
Yeah,
Now, you
like
could
her
of
old
course believe
school
that there are
red.
two Adas, but that's not the case. Let's
What?
introduce ourselves to someone named as Carla Radames. Carla was a genius-level researcher who was working for Derek Simmons. At some point, Simmons had dealings with Ada Wong back in 1998. She used to work for him, but their dealings didn't end there. Simmons became infatuated with Ada after she rejected him. Simmons set up
Nice.
a secret project, Project Ada. He worked on kidnapping thousands of women and attempted something absolutely mental.
Oh
He
my
wanted to
goodness.
create another Ada. Carla began to work on and be the supervisor for Project Ada. It didn't go that well at first. More than 12,000
This
experiments
goddamn
over 10 years ended in failure.
Ted
It wasn't
Bundy
good news for
of
Carla either.
Resident Evil.
Simmons, somewhere along the line, realised that Carla's genetics were very similar to Ada's, and knowing full well that Carla was infatuated with him, Simmons convinced Carla to be the next test subject. She would be the final one. It worked. Carla became a chrysalid, and then she hatched. As Leon saw on the videotape, a perfect copy of Ada. Well, she would become a near-perfect copy. Simmons then began his work in programming Carla to be exactly like the real Ada Wong.
I see.
He used and managed to retain Carla's love for him, and this ensured that she would never leave him like Ada did. Simmons gave her lots of power, a base and an army of soldiers, but something was brewing under the surface. Carla, due to having part of her being left inside her, began to have an internal conflict. She was furious at what Simmons had done to her, so she became determined to destroy everything that he had built. Carla then built the organization Neo Umbrella and set it up in China. During this time, she would create and perfect the C virus.
Who could have
She did this
guessed
by
that it would
obtaining
go
a
bad?
T Veronica sample, and using the mutation characteristic from the progenitor virus, she developed a new variant of T Veronica named T02. This is where Sherry came in. You'll recall that Sherry was taken by the US government. Well, while there, she was experimented on by Simmons and Carla. Using Sherry's G virus sample, Carla combined it with T02, and the C virus was developed. A virus that Carla at least considered to be the perfect virus. Now, a quick side note, this all happened in 2009. You remember what also happened in 2009? Chris killed Albert Wesker. With Wesker gone, Sherry was no longer under threat, so she was offered a job as a government agent reporting to Simmons, the National Security Advisor. Carla, meanwhile, would test her C virus out, and her testing ground was the Mahawa School, and as mentioned earlier, Chris and Piers got caught up in it. Anyway, after the trial stage, it all went pear-shaped for Simmons. Jake Muller became known to be the only person in the world with C-virus antibodies thanks to his father, Wesker. This leads into Simmons sending Agent Birkin to get Jake so he is able to 1. Make sure a vaccine for the C-virus was never produced, and 2. To potentially use Jake's blood to enhance the C-virus even further. Simmons also sent Carla along to ensure that Jake really had C-virus antibodies, and she was the one who gave him and the Edonian rebels the shot, which turned them into Joavo. Jake not being affected by the shot meant that he had the antibodies. When Jake and Sherry were being held captive by the family, Carla then developed the C-virus into an enhanced version by using Jake's blood, which resulted in removal of the chrysalid phase. At some point in 2011, one of the researchers working for Carla was injected with the C-virus as a test subject. He underwent this willingly as he was born with a weak body and was frail. He was happy with the results. He had renewed strength. A couple of days in, he lost his right arm in a lab accident, but his arm didn't regenerate properly. Now here's a slightly messed up detail. Ustanak viewed Carla as a mother of sorts. A savior too, given that she had given him power and strength. He would be programmed to capture Jake, as Carla planned to go against Simmons and capture him for herself, which explains why Ustanak was there in Edonia in 2012. But Carla's plan had a hitch, and it was all of her own making. For some reason, Carla decided to contact the real Ada Wong, but masked the call to appear as if it was coming from Simmons instead. She told Ada there's some information aboard a ship, which may be of interest to her. Ada arrived at the ship, and to her surprise, she's able to access everything there. She discovers information about herself and that her prints are on file, along with a video detailing what appears to be her being sent on a mission to capture Jake Muller. This confuses her. Quite why Carla chose to involve the real Ada isn't known. Maybe she just hated Ada. Maybe she wanted Ada to see what Simmons was really like. Anyway, Carla goaded Ada and told her all about Tall Oaks, and told her that she formed Neo Umbrella, and that the face of this organization, to the world at least, was Ada Wong, and that Ada would end up taking the blame for the terror attacks. So Ada went to Tall Oaks, and Ada assisted Leon and Helena, ventured into the lab underneath the cathedral, and found the videotape titled Happy Birthday Ada Wong. And of course it was a video of Simmons watching Carla's chrysalid hatching and the birth of Carla's Ada Wong. Realizing that it was Carla that had been calling her and not Simmons, Ada called Simmons and informed him of what Carla was really up to when she destroyed the lab. As we saw, Ada then headed for China. Ada found documents on the aircraft carrier with details about why Carla became Ada 2.0 through Simmons' obsession with her. After Chris and Piers witnessed the death of Carla, who they of course still thought was Ada, they left the scene and Ada approached Carla. Turns out that Carla had injected herself with the C virus and transformed into a BOW. After freezing her with liquid nitrogen and shattering her, Ada escaped the carrier, which was sinking due to damage caused by Carla, and reached a helicopter, and she headed for Langxiang. That's when Ada helped Leon and Helena fight Simmons in his mutated form. Of course, Simmons didn't actually know that Carla was dead. He thought this real Ada was Carla. But back to the story. Hours later, Chris and Piers arrive at the entrance to the underwater oil field. Chris mentions that this war can't follow him forever, and it's been...
That was very face-off. John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. That was confusing at best. This story is a little bit...
3 years since he killed Wesker, and after they're finished with their mission, he's leaving the BSAA. They see a camera feed with Jake and Sherry detailing where they're being held, and Chris and Piers release them using the controls, and they make their way up to them. Around this time, Jake and Sherry get free and escape and come face to face with Chris and Piers. Chris and Jake have a tense confrontation after Chris tells Jake that he sees his father in him, and explains that he is the one who killed Albert Wesker back in 2009. Jake lets it go, but they end up finding the catalyst for Carla's master plan, a giant cocoon which will infect the entire world with the C virus if it hatches. Well, it does hatch, and out of it comes a BOW known as Chaos. Chris and Piers descend to defeat Chaos. Jake and Sherry start making their escape, but yep, Ustanak makes an appearance. They fight him, and Jake ends up in a fist fight with this absolute beefcake, and in the end, Ustanak falls into the lava. Jake and Sherry then use an unbelievably fast platform to escape to the surface through a tunnel, but
with his
Ustanak
petite body compared to him.
He tries to attack them on their platform, and they shoot Ustanak through the heart, killing him for good this time, and they both manage to escape. Meanwhile, Ada, the real one, also in the
those two
underwater
cannot
base,
have a
approaches
baby.
chrysalid,
It'll be crazy.
which is in the process of hatching. So she destroys it, ensuring that whatever it is can never come to be. Chris and Piers engage and fight Chaos. They run to escape the pursuing BOW, but Piers is grabbed and thrown, and his arm is badly damaged.
Oh,
It gets worse for him as the BOW throws an object, pinning his arm against the wall.
he
Chris is
loses
grabbed
it.
this time, and Piers frees himself by ripping what's left of his arm off, and uses the earlier obtained C-virus sample, injecting himself.
Of
This
course,
mutates him,
Jesus.
and he uses this new strength and power to save Chris. They fight and defeat Chaos. Piers is in bad shape and is turning fast. They both attempt to escape. The facility is falling apart due to the water pressure, and they
thing is
eventually make it to the
crazy.
escape pods. Piers knows he's
Damn.
screwed, and he pushes Chris into the pod and launches it, leaving himself behind. Chaos certainly isn't letting this go though, and swims to attack Chris's escape pod. Piers to the rescue though, and he uses his power to kill Chaos for good, allowing Chris to actually escape the facility while it blows up. In the aftermath of all of this, Helena is visiting her sister
Jesus.
Deborah's grave, and Leon and Hunnigan turn up. Thinking that she's going to be taken into custody for her role in the terror attacks, she's let go due to the fact that she was forced by Simmons. As for Chris, after the death of Piers, he's enjoying a meal in Eastern Europe. He went back on his desire to quit the BSAA in honor of Piers. A colleague comes over to Chris and tells him they have a new mission. Jake, well, he softened a bit after his adventures in Adonia and China. Initially having asked for $50 million for his blood, he dropped the asking price to $50 and devoted his life to helping others, and at some point he appears to be aiding a village or town by fighting some BOWs.
Oh, he can just go toe to toe with them.
The following year,
6 was all over the place. 6 was all over the place. I don't know what I think of that one. Honestly, that was weird, but it actually, the happiest ending of all of them, I would say. That dude actually turned good. Chris kind of turned back. They lost their homie. One chick gets pardoned. Ada, who knows what's going on with her. Leon and Chris have got to be getting super worn down by now. But yeah, I could see how my guess is the fans of Resident Evil proper did not like that game. I wonder how the rest of it goes. We'll watch Vendetta later.